Takes forever for this thing to load. Greetings once again, my friends, and welcome back to Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions, the podcast where we talk the week's events in Geek for Friday, October 11th, 2019. I am your host, Adam Mickelson, aka Drak. I hope everybody's had an awesome week. Happy Friday, everybody. And let's go ahead and get into this because we have a big night tonight. The internet has given us a bounty, and it would be rude for us to not capitalize on it. But first, let me go ahead and get into my panel of fellow geeks, fellow YouTubers, fellow awesome guys, and gal in general. And if you guys aren't following their content, then what the heck is wrong with you? What's up with that? You need to start following every bit of it. Every bit! I saw you, Phil. Start following. And without further ado, let's go ahead and introduce Alex the Shadow Blazer, who is joining us out of the shadows, out of the loving embrace of all the anime that he needs to catch up on, that he needs to review, and that apparently he has made his fan base wait too long for.
Alex, right, I'm behind. The fall season has started. I am not ready. Even though there's a handful of shows that I'm checking out this season. There's still like one or two lingering from last season that I've yet to finish, because I got behind on those. But otherwise, yeah, good. Been a busy week, of course. Work is work, and I'm here. And, well, surprise, surprise, I saw Joker last weekend. I didn't think I was going to go see it.
And you survived.
You know, I'm okay, and nothing bad happened, and, you know.
Alex, turn around. Turn your head around. Turn your head around. See, there's the mind control chip, everybody. There's the mind control chip. Seriously, I don't get why people were so mad at that movie. Like, I just don't get it. But also we have Stephen Romney of Studio Ghost Utah, of From the Shelf, Rhapsody, and Cinema, Martial March, Monster Clash, joining us tonight. Romney, how you doing?
Doing pretty well. I mean, it was an okay week. I mean, still hunting for work and putting in a bunch of applications, and like Alex, I also saw Joker, but this time I saw it on Wednesday, since that's the day I usually go pick up my comics from the store that happens to be in a mall that also has a movie theater. So, figured cut down on the drive time, and yeah, I have opinions about Joker, not really sure how best to express them, but
let me go ahead and express mine. Turn your head around. Turn your head around. There's the mind control chip, everybody.
Yeah.
There it is. You guys saw it.
Chips.
We are the Borg. Resistance is futile.
I don't get it. Why mind control chips?
That's one of the things that got screamed about, is like, if you go there and watch Joker, you will be brainwashed. And somebody actually went the Alex Jones level of further and said they will implant chips into your mind, or into your head, that will forever make you want to I don't know, dress in drag or in constant clown makeup. I'm not sure.
I think that's probably just people doing it for the memes. I mean, the big fuss around Joker was like, oh no, this movie is going to encourage people to go do terrible things. And guess what? Like, nothing terrible happened.
Yeah,
it's almost like the focal point of the movie is about a guy who does terrible things.
I mean, looking at the content, I can see some cause for concern, at least from the standpoint of people who had experienced, for example, the shooting in Aurora during Dark Knight Rises. I can see why there would be points of concern, but to that I would say people have gone on killing sprees after watching the Ten Commandments, and you didn't see people boycotting the Ten Commandments.
Yeah, pretty much. And also, joining us tonight, for the second time on the podcast, I want to say, second time, returning guest, Shay Turi. Oh my gosh, it's been so long and so many demands of going, could you please bring the anime girl back? She was fun.
I'm glad to be back.
To which I humbly responded, which anime girl? Oh wait, we've only had one anime girl on this podcast. So there you go. Shay, how are you doing this fine evening?
I have not seen Joker yet.
Oh, good, that I don't feel like the lonely guy at the club right now.
But I have been reading about another clown, which is It, because I've been reading the book. So.
I was actually going to say, have you finished it?
No.
Finished
It's over 1,000 pages.
I saw a picture on your Instagram of the book, and I'm like,
not
yet.
She
finished it? Okay. All right, so we have our panel here, and it's time to discuss the week's events in Geek. Why am I pushing forth the intros just a little bit? Because, well, we have some controversial matter to discuss. And frankly, the internet was bountiful, and we weren't even missing a week. They came up with a controversy that just keeps giving and giving and giving and giving until literally 10 minutes ago. We have lots of updates on this particular story that we're going to be talking about tonight, and it's appropriate that it's our top one as well as the focal point of the title of this episode. So, unfortunately, Stephen Romney's not with us. I was hoping he could explain the political situation just a little bit, because we're going to have to explain that a little bit.
Nutshell to what I know about it. All right, so
go ahead, Alex.
In Hong Kong right now, and for a quick history lesson here, Hong Kong is sort of a semi-autonomous territory of China. It once belonged to Great Britain. Then in 1997, I believe, Britain sold by treaty gave it back to China. 96. Okay. Yeah. So it was always destined. It was always going to go back to China. That was part of a treaty signed way back hundreds of years ago. So like I said, semi-autonomous territory. Now, recently, in May, there was a bill that would better kind of consolidate the criminal justice system between China and Hong Kong and allow more likely extradition. And Romney's back, so he'll probably explain it better than I can.
All right,
go ahead.
Okay. So let's hand this over to Romney to kind of finish things off.
Take care of something that came up at the last minute, but yeah. To explain the context of what's going on in Hong Kong, it all started when a bill was introduced in the legislature titled the Fugitive Offenders and Mutual Legal Assistance in Criminal Matters Legislation Amendment Bill, which basically, as Alex explained, would basically allow criminals who are charged in Hong Kong to be extradited to mainland China to stand trial. And like Alex explained, to kind of clarify one thing, it was in 97 that Hong Kong was handed back to China after being under British control.
Oh, okay.
And, yeah, so it was 97 when they were handed back after being a British colony for a number of years as a result of the Opium Wars. And as a result of this compromise that allowed Hong Kong to be under Chinese control, China had to adopt what was known as a one China, two systems policy, where Hong Kong was more or less allowed to govern itself and have its own government in exchange for, well, basically Britain, and by extension the United States, not interfering with them. And so this bill was kind of this was the largest as part of a numerous other pushes on part of the mainland Chinese government, specifically the Chinese Communist Party, to try to exert more control over Hong Kong. And, well, the people of Hong Kong were having none of it. As soon as this bill was produced, because let's face it, with what we know about how Chinese courts tend to work, corruption is rampant within the Chinese government because it's a one-party system. And so the people of Hong Kong took to the streets to protest and calling for the retraction and complete withdrawal of this extradition bill, as well as basically fighting in addition to grossly oversimplify, basically protesting both in favor of Hong Kong maintaining its own sovereignty, as well as fighting for things like freedom of speech, freedom of the press, so on and so forth. And so these protests have been ongoing since the summer, and that more or less is what is going on, and things are still ongoing with a number of protests that have been springing up, and a number of escalations. It's, well, a mess, for lack of a better term.
It is. So, Drak, we have a bone to pick with you. Why are you bringing up politics on this podcast when you have numerous times said you will not bring up politics on this podcast? Well, it's kind of necessary to be able to do that, because it pertains to a story that has literally been a big bonfire in the geek world this week. Recently, there was a Hearthstone tournament in the country of Hong Kong, in which player Blitzchung, after winning that said tournament and gaining his prize of roughly equivalent of US $10,000, he decided to make the following statements, which have now fled my computer, but basically saying The way to look at this from a press perspective is this is the interview that happens at the end of the Super Bowl. You've won the Super Bowl. What are you going to do now? I'm going to go to Disneyland. They did this with Blitzchung. His answer was, free Hong Kong. Yeah. This revolution
the actual quote is liberate Hong Kong, revolution of our times. Now, keep in mind, this is translated since this was in Mandarin, since this was a Chinese language stream.
It was. So at that point, what happened? He said it, and we had an instant reaction from the shoutcasters that were there at the tournament. By that, I mean that they decided to go hide under the table.
And then immediately also tried to cut the commercial as soon as it happened.
Yes. And Blizzard officially went into panic mode after the tournament happened and scrubbed everything on that tournament, or at least on the final days of it, because, well, this pissed off China. And if you guys don't know this, Blizzard, along with Activision, their partner, along with many other North American game developers, are trying to get into the Chinese market.
They have a huge footprint over there. Warcraft is big
not only that, Alex, but one of their shareholders by 5% is Tencent, which is a Chinese company. So you can imagine China wasn't very happy about that, and probably let their opinions be known to Blizzard. To which, afterwards, Blizzard, in response, immediately removed Blitzchung. I'm not going to say his actual name because I will murder it, I swear. They removed Blitzchung from the Grandmasters League. They rescind Blitzchung's winnings of roughly US $10,000 for that Grandmaster Season 2 tournament. They ban Blitzchung from Hearthstone esports for 1 year. And then Blizzard immediately terminates the contracts of the casters that interviewed Blitzchung. So the ones that decided to keep their head under the desk, they're fired. After that, Blizzard puts out an official statement in regards of it, basically citing their Grandmaster's official competition rules. And I quote, engaging in any act that, in Blizzard's sole discretion, brings you into public disrepute, offends a portion of the or group of the public, or otherwise damages Blizzard's image, will result in removal from Grandmasters and reduction of the player's prize total of $0 US dollars, in addition to other remedies which may be provided for under the handbook and Blizzard's website terms. Okay? The Blizzard community, which has been very, very loyal to them over the various years that Blizzard has existed, did what they did last year and lashed out. Blizzard's response? Disabling the comments for the news post and blaming it on an internal error. Why am I making it as broad as I possibly could? Because this excuse has been used before. It was used last year when they disabled the comments and removed comments on the Diablo Immortal trailer on YouTube. I'm not even kidding. I checked word for word, exact response. That pretty much confirms to me that they did that too. Also, after that, we have a community and social media response that damns Blizzard. Twitter, Blizzard has a top trending topic worldwide for over 200,000 posts, and most of them involving hashtag Blizzard boycott. And it actually hit the top 10 trending hashtags within the United States. To give people a perspective, Pro Jared was number 2 when he was in his controversy and lost over 100,000 subscribers. They hit 10. Then Reddit happened. The World News Post reached a top of 53,000 upvotes over the controversy regarding Blizzard. Hearthstone responded vehemently and got 52, so this is the subreddit of Hearthstone. They responded and got 52,000 upvotes in the primary thread. The subreddit as a whole strongly denounced Blizzard's actions throughout the day. The vast majority of upvoted posts are strong criticisms of Blizzard and announcements to cease using Blizzard products. While this is happening, a number of Blizzard fans start to cancel their Battle.net accounts. Not just Hearthstone, not just World of Warcraft, not just StarCraft, all of them. This also includes Activision fans who are vehement COD fans who also stand in support of Blizzard fans in this regard. In response to all of this, the subreddit for Hong Kong calls for players to stop buying Blizzard products. That increases the amount of people dropping. Pro Hong Kong Mei memes are born. For those who don't know, the character Mei in Overwatch gets retooled to be in complete garb for the Liberate Hong Kong movement, which Blizzard wasn't happy about. Actually, even in turn, removed some of them off of Reddit, and Reddit immediately said, if you remove any more Mei memes, we will start doing these with Tracer and Soldier 76, openly gay characters within Overwatch. The Mei memes stay up. They don't get deleted anymore. Nice work, fans. Overwatch reacts with 39,000 upvotes. WoW reacts with 19,000. Classic WoW, 84,000. Diablo reacts with 4,000 upvotes. And then Blizzard is temporarily shut down its subreddit due to the backlash. Blizzard's having a tough week so far. Can we at least say that?
Yeah.
Agreed.
It gets worse. Because here's the thing. I heard a lot of people online say, well, if this had happened to a United States Hearthstone player, things would be really different. Well, you're right, because it did. Basically a Heroes of the Dorm tournament, but for Hearthstone, that's basically for earning a prize money total that goes towards your college education, but this is Hearthstone. A group in Americana University, after they win their round in that Hearthstone tournament, decide to wield a flag of hashtag boycott Blizzard. They won their round, by the way. And they advanced. But Blizzard stepped in and said, we're going to scrub all of your announcements of that boycott Blizzard flag. So if you want to know how things would be different, that's how different it is. They scrub it and make sure that it never existed. But the fans were not happy about that because the person who won in that bracket decided to forfeit his position in the tournament, saying that if Blitzchung is punished for being able to say the words that he did, then I should be punished just the same.
That's the key thing, is that although they scrubbed it, they didn't institute any bans or anything. It was just a case they more or less did nothing. That's the key distinction.
Then, American politics got involved. Senator Ron Wyden, a Democrat from Oregon, made a statement saying no American company should censor calls for freedom to make a quick buck, and was then joined by Republican from Florida, Senator Marco Rubio, when he tweeted, China using access to market as leverage to crush free speech globally. Implications of this will be felt long after everyone in U.S. politics today is gone. Whether you're an R or a D, they both came out against Blizzard. Blizzard has been in hot water this entire week, and it got worse because BlizzCon is only 3 weeks away. And now we have found out, because in case you guys don't know this, when you purchase a ticket to BlizzCon, which is upwards of about $200 a month, or $200 per person, and this happens in March, by the way, so way before this controversy, you can't refund that. So, in turn, BlizzCon goers have now decided to get together and stand outside BlizzCon and protest the events involving Blitzchung. All of this, by the way, Blizzard continues to remain silent until literally 10 minutes ago.
Especially considering one thing you forgot to mention is that there was even a protest at Blizzard headquarters where Blizzard employees...
I'm glad that you brought that up because I did forget to do that. There was actually also a staged walkout with Blizzard employees of up to 30 of them, all walking out using umbrellas like the Liberate Hong Kong movement does. And also, this takes a bit of explanation, but outside the Blizzard campus, there is a giant statue of an orc riding a wolf. It is basically a big sign of Warcraft and what built Blizzard. And under it are plaques representing the philosophies of Blizzard. This protest not only walked out to that orc statue and held a silent vigil, they also covered up 2 of those principles. 1, think globally, and 2, every voice matters. In protest. Finally, 10 minutes ago, CEO J. Allen Drak makes an official announcement regarding it, to which it's basically a corporate non-apology.
I'll take Orwellian doublespeak for 400, Alex.
Indeed. Now, I know Shay's getting really mad at me, like I'm screaming into this mic because that's the way it's going. But on the bright side of his statement, they did officially state that Blitzchung will receive his tournament earnings. He will receive the $10,000. And out of the goodness of their hearts, this is where it's a non-apology, people. Out of the goodness of their hearts, they are going to cut his suspension or his banning in half. He cannot play Hearthstone esports for up to 6 months should he want to return.
And that's setting a set for the casters as well, where they're thinking, okay, we're setting their casters suspension for 6 months as well.
Yes, but in the meantime, they have also had one of their active caster team willingly quit because of the firing of the 2 other casters, and he has already said that he is not returning in regards to this. So, I have already talked this up. I have said it as best as I possibly can because it's going to happen, guys. I'm the Blizzard fan here. I'm going to get on a soapbox. So before I get on my soapbox, I'm going to go ahead and open it up to the panel before I rip Blizzard a new one. So I think it's only fair to go into the person who knows a little bit about this situation, but not everything. Shayturi, what is your take on this situation now that I've given as many of the details as I possibly can to you?
I feel like it's just crazy. I can't. So one of the things that immediately when I started like reading like the article that was sent to me talking about it and how they like stripped him of his title and everything else like that, it just reminded me in a weird way, and I wrestled with the idea of bringing up this as an example, but it made me think of the protests that have happened here for human rights and how that's gotten athletes stripped of their titles because of them doing that. So like one of the ones that I know of is Tommy Smith and John Carlos, who during the 1968 Olympics raised their fists in the air for human rights. And they were stripped of their medals and were banned from the Olympics after doing that because they said it was a big issue that they did that. And also the person that also was second place also like had a human rights badge that he wore as well, although he did not raise his fist in the air. But that caused an issue. And that was also just free speech as well, as they were just stating or just showing through an act that they like believed in human rights, and very similar to Colin Kaepernick kneeling during the national anthem at football games. You know, people were very upset about him doing that, but that was also free speech. And then that got him ostracized from the NFL. So now no team will take him because of it.
But I'm going to take a step a little bit further. Let's take Kaepernick out of this, and let's go back to the other 2 you mentioned. Because they did that in China, didn't they? If I remember correctly?
Was it? I think it was it was in Mexico City. Yeah.
Mexico City. Because here's the thing. If those 2 had done that in China, one of the biggest UN human rights violators, I'd be surprised if they walked away from it. If
someone else would probably get their organs.
Uh-huh. That's kind of the downside here. Just think about this from this perspective. If Colin Kaepernick had done what he did in Tiananmen Square, would he be walking right now?
Especially during the time that you know that Tommy Smith and John Carlos did theirs was during 1968, which was like at the height of like the civil rights movement. Of course, there was so much going on just in America in general, and they did that during the Olympics, so tons of people were watching them do this. And hearing about this Blizzard player get his like money stripped from him and hearing all of that, it's like he should be allowed to say what he wanted to say. And once again, just like the senator said, like they're doing this for money, not because of human rights.
Well,
They're doing this because of the fact that they feel like their business is going to take a turn for the worse because of him saying these things. When in reality, because of them taking action against what he said and against him, it's hurting them even more.
Now, let me bring this up to you really quick, Shay, because this will be a little bit shocking to you because, again, you're not really a Blizzard fan. Do you want to know who Blizzard's biggest adversary was 10 years ago? China.
Yeah, well.
Blizzard was trying to get World of Warcraft in China. And they were just barely releasing a expansion called Wrath of the Lich King, which at that point was basically undead and death themed. Okay, I don't know if you know this, but in China, it's against, I can't remember if it's Buddhism or what the religion is, but you cannot show skeletons.
Yeah, it's not a religious
you cannot show
thing,
bone
it's just Chinese
in
law.
China.
Because the Chinese
It's
government,
Chinese law.
officially, they've taken kind of an atheistic stance regarding religion, where you're allowed to practice religion, but it's not really religiously sanctioned. This is just plain good old-fashioned government censorship.
Yes. So at that point, Blizzard was playing the nice guy. They took an entire section out of that expansion, the hero class Death Knight, and China didn't get it. They still don't have it. The Chinese version has Death Knights taken out completely. And if you wanted to play an undead character in World of Warcraft, they had to take the exposed bones on the model that were around the elbows and the knees, and even the jaw, because some of them had no jaw. They had to basically fix it so that you could. They had to have skin, and you couldn't have a disembodied jaw. All right, so at that point, you couldn't have like a big feature of the undead capacity, and they were doing this and being all nice guy, while China was one of the biggest offenders of the gold trade market in World of Warcraft. In fact, it was very well known that their prison system was trying to take advantage of World of Warcraft and steal from Blizzard employees by having felons earn gold and give it to players illegally.
Crazy. Now, one thing I do know is that the video game industry in general is becoming very new in China because they're allowing a lot of games and a lot of different systems come out there, which was why for a period of time emulators were super popular in China so that they could play the American games because they weren't actually allowed to be released over there. But now that's a new market. So like from a business standpoint, weirdly, like just me flipping the coin, business standpoint, I get it because they're trying to just make money. So they're like, look, this one guy is going to hurt or they feel like this one guy is going to hurt their business in China, allowing them to like bring their games over there without like, I don't know what censorship they're going to have or anything else like that or what hoops they have to jump through. But from a business standpoint, I get them like being upset about it. But I also don't understand the point of like someone else also the same thing. And while they're not from China, like, you have to, if you're going to deal someone a punishment, deal it to everyone across the board and be like, this is not okay.
Well, and that's an important thing too. So let's play devil's advocate here for just a second. Let's say Blitzchung was not from China, not from Hong Kong, but he was from Germany, and he said, oh crap, what is it? Not free Hong Kong, liberate Hong Kong. Blizzard's actions might be a touch more justified because he's not living there. Blitzchung is. He lives it every day. That's where it hurts even more. Alex, you are also not really a Blizzard fan, and I think you've been able to follow a lot of this stuff. Not meaning to cut Shay off, but there's a lot to go over here tonight. Alex, what is your take on this situation?
It's real sad, and it's just, unfortunately, the real testament of where pretty much all our media industry is at right now. It's more than just games now. It's everything. It's movies. It's TV. We're so trying so hard to cater to the Chinese market because it's become such a big and emerging market over the last several years. You know, it's just kind of funny the timing of this because South Park just had a really big episode about criticizing the whole pandering and placating to China.
Not just an episode. Their 300th episode. Their 300th episode took digs at China, as well as the previous week's episode took digs at China, specifically in their dealings with the movie industry. And now, I'm glad that you brought that up, because our live chat, by the way, thank you, live chat, for joining us tonight and joining in my lividness and absolute pissed-offery. Blizzard wasn't the only one that had issues this week, as South Park is permanently banned in China because of their recent digs, and also a Taiwanese indie game company that took a dig at China is no longer anymore a company because China retaliated.
Yep. And Taiwan is also in a very similar situation to Hong Kong, where, again, going back into the World History 101, Hong Kong and Taiwan are in this weird area where China is like, no, they're totally part of China. They're totally part of China. I mean, yeah, they have their own government, their own laws and everything, but no, they're totally part of China. And if any of you...
They are glorious annexes of the People's Republic of China. I think that's their actual term.
Another term they often use, like, oh, these are just wayward provinces who've lost their way, and if any of you question it, we'll blow you to Kingdom Come.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So...
Yeah.
Any other opinions you want to offer, Alex? I really don't want to get on my soapbox
until later. I mean, Doctor Strange, the whole mystic, Supreme Sorcerer. I think that's the title.
The ancient one, I think.
Yeah, the reason it's played by Tilda Swinton, like I think in the original comics, it's supposed to be like a Tibetan. Like a Tibetan priest, and Tibet's another sensitive topic with regards to China. Oh my gosh.
Not sensitive, wayward province. There's a difference.
As a province. It's just, since it's in the mainland, it's just like, oh no, this is just part of the mainland. Again, we will have to do a whole world history episode if we really want to go into detail.
Well, trust me, we're not going completely over the political line, guys. So I know that I mentioned the politicians weighed in here. We're not completely crossing the political line. We're gonna flirt with it, but it is relevant to this story.
It's true. Like on this show, we do try to avoid political subjects because we're not a political cast, but it's unfortunate that once in a while political topics cross over into the entertainment medium, and whether it's like when we talked about tariffs a couple of years ago, where that could go. Now it's how does geopolitics and globalization affect the industry? Well, and that's what we're facing now with China ever more. And sometimes I think, how is this going to start affecting, Japanese anime? Japanese anime is in a similar position, despite, sensitive relations with Japan and a lot of its Asia-Pacific neighbors from the end of World War II. China's taken a lot more vested interest in the Japanese anime industry. We're seeing a lot of Chinese vested interest into new anime. And it's not, on different subjects, but been seeing in the news a lot of various pretty established creators in the anime industry kind of getting in trouble for speaking some of their thoughts on Twitter about other controversial and touchy subjects, right? So I'm just waiting for the next.
Because from a business perspective, everybody looks at that 1 billion population mark and go, dollars. Or in Japan's case,
it's not even just yen. People forget, even though the ban on it has been lifted, they still don't have a standing military. That's another thing that Japan has to worry. It's like, if China decides to, go to war with us, we literally only have a small self-defense force, and that's it.
So, that being said, Romney, your thoughts on this situation before I jump on my soapbox.
This definitely at least confirmed one thing for me. I probably have no intention of ever purchasing any sort of Blizzard game in the near future, and this was because I was considering, Overwatch seems kind of fun, but after this, I'm just like, I'm just gonna keep my money, thank you very much. As for this whole, now for context, the reason I've been following the Hong Kong protests specifically is because, for those of you who don't know, Venezuela is going through a similar crisis where you have an authoritarian government trying to hold on to its power damn the consequences to the detriment of the people who actually live there. So this sort of thing kind of hits close to home for me. And so looking at this, I just look at this like, well, Blizzard, if you're just going to say, yeah, we're after, it's kind of a case of Blizzard, don't do this whole, oh, we're just trying to uphold our rules. Like, just admit it. It's the money. If you just said, oh, yeah, well, we don't want to hurt our interests in China, we have to, like, because they are a major, like, business. Like, if you're at least honest about it, then at least there you can be like, okay, at least you're being honest about it. This whole, oh, but we're trying to, like, make this an inclusive community. So, like, it's like bullshit, Blizzard. You literally just sold your principles for money. I mean, come on.
So, this has been a very difficult story to follow, simply because this was the straw that broke the camel's back. I have been a Blizzard fan since 1998, when the first StarCraft came out. And I was a big RTS fan back in the day, and StarCraft was basically the one that took me away from Command & Conquer, and I never went back. I never went back to any other RTSs unless they were Warcraft, StarCraft, or any other Blizzard-based RTS. I really liked how Blizzard was developing them, and then later on got adopted into the Warcraft franchise, and later, even later than that, the Diablo franchise. Played Heroes of the Storm, played Hearthstone, played Overwatch. All of them are on my computer right now. And ever since last year, it has been embarrassing, outright embarrassing, to be a Blizzard fan. Why has it been embarrassing? Because first of all, I had to deal with the absolute shit stain that was Diablo Immortal. And then we got to hear about Activision slowly reaching its claws into Blizzard and taking away key positions and basically making J. Allen Brack a figurehead. This appreciates even better when you look at the non-pology. Pretty sure J. Allen Brack didn't write that. Not only that, then we got to hear about 80% of their employees got fired in January so that they could then refocus their efforts, including putting a bunch of esports players, shoutcasters, and staff out of work for Heroes of the Storm. And it got worse and worse and worse as this year has gone on. I have been embarrassed to be a Blizzard fan, and this took the fucking cake. Blizzard, 10 years ago, you were kicked out of China. You were kicked out because they said you wouldn't follow their rules. Your answer to that was, well, we tried. You moved on, you kept making good games, and you kept getting good numbers. Numbers that proved you didn't need the Chinese market, even though Activision said you did. And now you're kowtowing to the people that constantly were shoving their dicks down your throat and saying, you can't do this, you can't do that, and you said, oh, wait, we actually can. Oh, but now I know why that happened, because Mike Morhaime, unlike Bobby Kotick, is willing to at least say, hey, stop that. We make good games, damn it. But he's not around anymore. And even he looks at this and is disgusted. Chris Metzen is disgusted. Mark Kern is disgusted. And I stand with them. I'm disgusted. You stood with one of the, and I'm pretty sure if I looked into the numbers, I'd be right, one of the biggest human rights violators in the world today. And I'm making a bold claim with this one, but I'll bet the math backs me up, one of the biggest body counts in the history of the world. And we dropped the bomb! Oh yeah, and we apologized for that. I'm pretty sure if China did that, they wouldn't have batted a damn eye. And you want into that market? You want to support that? You want to support a government and corporations there that don't give a crap about their citizenry? I've never understood this with any of you video game developers that want to get into that market. Aside from, oh look, 1 billion people that are forced to buy cell phones and forced to sit in a movie theater. It's not their choice, they have to do it. That's a market that I want to get into. I'm pretty sure I'd sleep well at night that night. That's why I'm saying I'm on a soapbox, people. This has pissed me off. Blizzard, I'm officially done being your good guy and saying Blizzard does amazing things, because frankly, all the people that did that are long gone. You are active Blizzard as far as I am concerned. And now I get to approach this one, which I want the panel to also get into, because this addresses all of the other video game companies as well. I've been getting this question since Monday when the official act happened. Drak, voting with our dollar isn't helping. What do we do? What do we do to say to these companies we're sick and tired of this? And you know what? This whole story has made me think really hard on that. For the last couple of years, as Alex and Romney can attest, I have said, vote with your wallet. Don't support it. Don't buy it. Don't do anything like that. And then we see aberrations like Battlefront 2 happen. Can't really stop it. It's going to happen. Not everybody is going to be you. You can't stop that portion. And I'm thoroughly convinced that it wouldn't even matter, because they'd find a way to be able to make it work. So what else can you do? I've actually been thinking about that for the last 4 to 5 days. And my answer is not perfect, but I think it's definitely something that we all could do to set their feet to the fire. Not just Blizzard, EA, Bethesda, Activision, Ubisoft, all of them. If you don't want them to do this crap, I've got one way that you could do it. It's not much, but I'm going to give it to you. I'm just curious. In the chat, as well as on the panel, in the last month, can you guys tell me how many terms of service online that you've agreed to and not read? I'll give you the number.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
I've done a lot. This year alone,
Yeah.
even more. We do that, and it's by default. And it's a bad practice, but we do it. Because we want to be able to get access. But here's how I want you guys to look at it from here on in. Terms of service are basically a contract. It's a non-contract contract, is the way to look at it from legal terminology.
The official term is a contract of adhesion, which is basically you either sign it,
Yes.
It's basically like it's a take it or leave it sort of arrangement.
Yeah.
Which, fun fact, a bunch of my lawyer friends who are corporate lawyers have officially told me that judges hate these adhesion contracts. They hate them. They absolutely hate them because they're way too vague. Anybody could get hurt with them. So here's my answer to you. And this is my answer to Blizzard as well. So, JL and Brak, I hope you're watching. Tonight, I'm going through every single TOS of every Blizzard game. Word for word. And if I so much as find any vague statements, any allusion to that you're going to say, no, you can't say that. No, you can't take that position. No, you can't say, and I quote, liberate Hong Kong. If it has it in there, which I doubt it will, because that would be way too out in public. But if it even subtly alludes to it, my advice to you, as well as to myself, and this is a big thing, Alex will attest, my WoW account, gone. Canceled, not paid for anymore. Uninstalled. Hearthstone, gone. Overwatch, gone. StarCraft, gone. Diablo, gone. I am no longer a Blizzard fan. It's that simple. That's my viewpoint on the matter. I'm going to be going through those TOSs, and I recommend that you guys do the same, not just to Blizzard, but do it to your favorite EA game. Do it to your favorite Ubisoft game. Do it to your favorite Activision game. Because there's one thing that game companies just don't get anymore. They think that they're above us all, and they just don't get this simple term. And I will clip this so you guys can send it out to the Twitter sphere as much as you want to. They don't realize that gamers can live without games. But game companies can't live without gamers. That's simple.
And there's even a precedent for it as well. People forget, back when Square Enix was trying to police how things were controlled with their games on YouTube, people rose up and then eventually Square Enix got the message. So before people think, oh, but they're large companies, they're not going to listen.
Oh no, they listen.
They listen. I mean, and to even go even further, we were able to stop SOPA the same way, where we stopped the government from trying and other companies from trying to censor the internet. So, yeah, it can be done.
Yeah. Also, I don't know.
Europeans, if you want to stop Article 13, there's already retribution motions in action.
Yeah.
Support
Also,
those.
I don't know if this was said, but they have decided to give him back the money. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They did.
Yeah.
They did.
They decided to give it. Yeah, they did. They did decide to give him back the money, and they cut his suspension in half. So yes, we can say this works. So
Yeah.
Shay, you've got a point, but this is what you have to
stand
do.
up to the companies and show them that they're not going to have your money if they're going to be doing something that's super shady or something that you just don't like as the consumer. Just like you said, money is what talks. Like, that's basically what it is. And as far as like reading terms and conditions, like you read that on anything you're signing up for. I know for me, I used to work in retail for Apple, and I've only had one person when they set up their device ever sit there and read the terms and conditions. And they've asked me questions, and I'm like, I haven't even read the terms and conditions, so I don't know what's even in there. But I do know at one point, maybe it was just a rumor, but someone had said in the Apple terms and conditions at one point, it said really stupid stuff just because they knew no one ever read it. Like, if you decline, you'll have to give up your firstborn child. Like, it's just stupid stuff. You have to give up your left leg. And it was like, what?
See, I'm kind of surprised you didn't go down this example, but you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. Has anybody seen the South Park episode Human Sentai Pad?
I have. And it's about the terms and conditions, and they're all like, I always read the terms and conditions.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
You don't know what crap they put in those things.
Yeah,
they are incredibly vague.
One better, because at the company that I was working at, and actually one of the reasons I ended up leaving the company I was at, was it was a company that provides services for the elderly, and we had an end user license agreement that these old people who are a number of them who were lawyers, doctors, people who actually, took the time to read these things, ask a lot of questions. And even though the license agreement was written in plain language, it goes even deeper, where when I would ask these questions about even my supervisors and my bosses saying, hey, I have these customers asking, these really important questions. And the thing that made me leave the company finally was when I would bring up these things and literally the response was, we don't get into it. That was literally all they said. Mm-hmm. That was their only response, and it was ridiculous. And this is a company that was receiving taxpayer funding to provide these services for the elderly. So literally, my tax-paying dollars, all of your tax-paying dollars, going to this company, and their response is, we don't get into the EULA.
Yes. Why don't they get into the EULA? Because it's so freaking vague that anybody can interpret any way. And that's the problem with a lot of this stuff. Now, I'm gonna cut Romney off because we are actually getting some good questions in the live chat that I want to be able to address. So, Robin's review world specifically is asking, so no playing Saviors of Uldum? Not if you want to support them. Like, if you think that this was a bad idea, then you don't buy the latest Hearthstone expansion. All right, Saviors of Uldum. I know a lot of Hearthstone players, including fellow pro players, that know Blitzchung and think that this is absolute bullcrap that this happened. They immediately canceled their subscription to Savior, or their pre-order for Saviors of Uldum, the new Hearthstone expansion, and I think the one after that too, as well as they've pretty much said that they're probably going to be looking into other card games to support via esports. Because if this is going to happen once and it happens again, it's going to make Hearthstone's esports fall apart. So you have all that, and then we also have a bunch of people going, we would do this to the companies that we support. Specifically, Square Enix has been brought up. If the FF7 remake is not good, then they will not support it anymore. That's pretty much what we can do here. As much as I would like to say that capitalism works and voting with your dollar is all you need to do, it's not anymore. It's not. Unfortunately, voting with your wallet doesn't matter to these companies who can then just go to countries like China and say, oh, well, you have a guaranteed 1 billion people that'll buy your mobile game. And Blizzard, that's why you're looking into mobile games. Let's be honest right here and now. That's why you're looking into mobile games. Because the Chinese market is mobile. They are preyed upon by the predatory practices. They are. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up because we've been talking about this for a damn hour. And I think I've actually hurt Shay's feelings like 10 times in this whole thing because she should be like, oh, I'm sorry. This is what happened when Drak goes on a soapbox tirade. Especially with a company that he vehemently loves. And just as a wrap-up, I actually just barely got this from Brinton Volley, and I think it's worth reading. So, Blizzard lately has been acting strangely and is not this incredible company that both you and Nathan have described to me. And it shows based on the original founders having left and the way the current leadership handled BlizzCon last November. They're not in a good place. And in fact, again, I bring this up. It's 3 weeks till BlizzCon. We already know there's going to be a protest. But I think there's also going to be something else that happens while out there. I'm going to go ahead and put this in the chat, and I'm going to go ahead and encourage people to go and watch it. Because, frankly, I think it's a second coming. And for those on the RSS feed, you aren't hearing this because I've already started playing the clip. And with that being said, I think this is going to happen again, and again, and again, and again. These were just to the Diablo panels. I think this will happen on Hearthstone. I think this will happen on WoW. I think this will happen on Heroes of the Storm, Overwatch, etc. I, in fact, would not be surprised if people start throwing their collector's editions up on the stage.
Also, while wearing Winnie the Pooh, various clothing, costumes.
Well, the people who are wearing the Winnie the Pooh costumes can't walk it. At least that's what we think is going to happen.
Again, I'm going to stress that's not true. There's nothing that says people who wear Winnie the Pooh costumes are going to be banned.
Plus, here's the thing, though. It's really easy to sneak clothing in. Like, real easy. I mean, my older sister's a cosplayer. And so it's real easy to sneak clothing in. So they may be able to get through the door, but then, sneak into a bathroom, change, and then wreak havoc.
Winnie the Pooh with a Horde insignia. For the Pooh, bitches.
And all Blizzard can really say is, oh, bother.
Indeed. Actually, no, all they can say is, don't you guys have human rights?
Yeah,
Moving on. So, moving on into the next story that we have tonight. I promise we're done talking Blizzard, guys. But if you guys want to reach out to for more details from me, feel free to reach out to me on Twitter because I've got plenty and I'm basically loaded for bear on this whole situation. Literally. So the next story is going to allow another soapbox, but not from me this time. This technically happened last week, and our buddy the Shadow Blazer wanted us to cover it. But we already had plenty of stuff to go over, and frankly, since we were going to have a fellow Nintendo fan on here, I felt it was probably a little bit more appropriate here. So, Alex, I'm just going to go ahead and let you introduce this story and get on with your rant. Excuse me while I go get popcorn.
I don't think you're building it way too much in your mind, but okay. So, Mario Kart Tour, it's Nintendo's latest foray into the mobile market, which they've been doing for the last several years now. Well, to put it very simple, it's a gacha game. It's got lots of microtransactions, some of which you might consider pretty predatory. So, yeah, that's pretty much that. It's very disappointing from Nintendo, for starters, to see that they have to do this, right? But that's not where my rant really concerns. My rant is more towards the people who are just now suddenly deciding they want to call Nintendo out on this. Because, well, I remember people... The problem is Nintendo's having to do this because this is the kind of thing that pays in the mobile gaming market. This is why mobile games make so much money, and this is why people continue to make them, and make them with these skeezy kinds of practices. The fact is, Nintendo tried. They tried, damn it, to not do this. They tried to go into the mobile market with a much more earnest way to do it, and it failed. You know, it failed. Mario Run.
Mario Run, yeah.
On mobile. I mean, yeah, it costs $15. I get it, but it failed. I think they had a Fire Emblem one that failed as well.
Actually, Fire Emblem Heroes is actually still going strong, and so it's actually one of the few examples.
Yeah, and I've also heard that Tales of Dragalia Lost, the JRPG they made for it, is pretty good.
Nintendo still has ones that are on the up and up, still in the market, but Fire Emblem Heroes still has those microtransactions. They've just done a lot to make them unnecessary, more or less.
Yeah. So, and that's the problem. And I remember people balked at the Mario Run price tag because, yeah, it's a little more pricey for a mobile game, but that's what you're going to have to do, people. That's what you're going to have to accept. If you want a game that isn't going to be loaded with predatory microtransactions, you're going to have to pay out a little more. It's the same thing when you have a free service versus a paid service. If you have a free service, there's a good chance you yourself are the commodity. It's the issues we've been having with places like Facebook and Twitter recently. They're getting their money by, well, mining off our data and selling it to the highest bidder. And, well, that's my problem here with Nintendo. It's a shame Nintendo has to get into the whole gotcha predatory practices here. But, well,
yeah,
none of you really helped support them when they tried to do this the more ethical and kinder way without going all predatory microtransactions. So, to those who are suddenly deciding to call Nintendo out, I have to ask you, where were you when Mario Run came out?
I mean, they came out for Fire Emblem Heroes. They did. Because Fire Emblem fans were not taking that.
Nintendo actually listened, because I was one of the people who was there at launch for Fire Emblem Heroes and then stepped away because of it. And I recently booted up again now, and the game is like radically different from how it was when it first launched, where now they've kind of gone the opposite track, where they've made it so easy to earn orbs and stuff for free that the transactions are almost unnecessary at this point. And so... yeah, and it's also a case, it's the same thing you saw when people came out for Miitomo, where Miitomo had certain microtransactions, although they were more linked to Club Nintendo more than anything. And it's a case where, yeah, there have been games, and it's been hit or miss since not... because I know Fire Emblem Heroes was made in-house, whereas stuff like Pokemon Go and some of these others were outsourced. It's very much a tricky thing, where you have the ones made in-house that are basically done right, but then the ones that are outsourced, that's where you tend to see more of the skeevy stuff.
And just to answer the live chat question, no, this is not the new Fire Emblem. This isn't Three Houses. Heroes is a mobile game that I think has been out for about 2 years now.
Yep, it came out ahead of the release of Fire Emblem Echoes for the 3DS, so it's actually pretty old, so 2 or 3 years or so.
Yeah. So at that point, they've been able to do that. And here's the thing. Nintendo franchises have had good mobile standings. Run is probably the outlier here because, I mean, I know that we shouldn't count this, but I do because it's a Nintendo mascot. Pokemon Go, still running wild, and we just barely, and Shay could probably answer this, Pokemon Heroes is out right now, right? Does it have microtransactions of any kind? Yeah, or Pokemon Masters, yeah.
Surprisingly, yeah. But I'm sure it probably does have microtransactions. I know Pokemon Go has a lot of microtransactions, but they're not sneaky about it, I would say. Like, you're paying for it. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, the way that it's been explained to me, and maybe I'll get this wrong, Shay, because you play it actively, so you'd be able to know, but they did actually, from what I understand, start Scorcese, but then got called out by the fan base and said, you need to stop doing it this way. And this was around the time of Battlefront 2, I believe, where basically the whole fire that set forth in numerous countries about microtransactions and loot boxes happened. And so at that point, Pokemon basically looked at this and went, yeah, we can't do this because we're already seeing the fire being lit with EA. So at that point, yeah, I mean, you already have a couple that have gone the predatory transaction route, I mean, for crying out loud, we could probably find a number of other dedicated companies that have had to go that route, and it's sad, but that's what they want to be able to do to survive. That's why in a lot of cases I'm kind of wondering if the whole mobile market needs to be readjusted, needs to be looked at and said, do we actually need these predatory microtransactions in them, or can we do something else to be able to make them more
But again,
wild?
like Alex mentioned earlier, it's all about that trade-off where basically you've got cases where people don't want to pay for the games they play, and so naturally if you want something for free, well, free is never really free. There's always a price that's paid.
Yeah.
Nope. And the other thing that I'd also like to point out, and I've gone into debate with a couple of Nintendo friends about this, I've always felt like Mario Run didn't do well because people expect a good Mario game to be on a Nintendo console. So at that point, if they brought Mario out to mobile, it was probably the worry was that it wasn't going to be as good because it probably wasn't going to be made by Nintendo. That's kind of the concept that I have also with Mario Kart Tour, is that maybe people assumed that it wasn't going to be made by Nintendo, and ergo it wasn't going to be good because, you know, the good Mario games are made in-house. And from what I understand, Run and Tour were technically done so, but they were done on much smaller dime than the other projects that were going on at that time. Tale of Dragalia Lost probably
I think
had
it's
more
just
money
called
spent
Dragalia Lost. There's no tail.
Or, yeah, sorry, Dragalia Lost. For some reason, I think it's
Well, yeah, it's just Namco would probably have, some words for Nintendo if it had the tail of on it.
Probably. So I'm gonna bounce this back to Alex before we get into the rest of the panel here. Anything you want to add on this?
No, I don't think I have much more to say from my little spiel there. It's a shame Nintendo has to go this route, but it's just the inevitability. If you don't pay for what you want, then you're gonna not get what you don't want, pretty much.
Then if you don't pay one way, that you'll have to pay another.
And truth be told, like, the mobile industry has killed off a lot of popular trademarks in the video game industry. Mario Run didn't work out. Neither did Command and Conquer. Neither did Breath of Fire 6, Capcom.
And then you even have companies like Sega trying to revive other franchises like Landgrisser to compete with Fire Emblem Heroes. And, well, that didn't quite work out, did it, Sega?
No, not really. Shay, your take on this whole Mario Kart Tour situation?
I feel like the main reason, like, I'm in a weird place about the microtransactions and people wanting to pay for games and stuff. Because I feel like, in a weird way, when a game comes out for a system and it's like $45-$60, people, for some reason, I feel like, can, like, logically say, okay, this is a purchase I'm going to make because it's for a system that I'm probably going to keep for a long time. But I feel like when it's a game going onto your cell phone, a lot of people can't logically feel like I should pay $15 for this game to be on my phone that I'm not for sure realistically if I'm actually really going to play. And for a phone, I may not keep beyond my 2 years or beyond my year, however oftentimes you upgrade. And I don't know if they have a server that's going to save my progress, that's going to bring it over to my next phone if I have one. So that's probably why some people don't want to pay the $15. Because you hear everyone, whenever an app comes out and they go on their phone and they want to get this app, if they see 99 cents, they don't even want to pay for it. They're like, no, I want it free.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, that happens a lot. So I feel like now with, like, Mario Tour, like, you're right. I feel like Nintendo was like, okay, you guys didn't want to pay for Mario Run, so we're going to give you guys a free game, but you're going to have to pay for the stuff that you're going to want, that you feel like you're going to need. But I also feel like the micro transactions are geared towards kids. Because I feel like kids are more easily going to, like, pay for it and be like, I'm just going to spend mommy and daddy's money for this. Because I see this all the time at the place I used to work. Like, people would come in and say, like, my child spent $30 on a game, and we're like, you gotta talk to developers, or you gotta talk to the store, the online store, for them to refund you your money back, or however that works. Like, there's nothing I can really do. But I feel like that's where the microtransactions are more so geared towards, because they know that kids will just.
I completely agree. I think they're exactly aimed towards kids who are going to constantly buy them. This is one of those things that I think predatory is a proper word, and I've had this argument with a couple of other people that are diehard mobile fans. Predatory is a proper word because you have to take into account who's being targeted with it, not necessarily you or I, like dude or dudette in our 20s or 30s that we're not going to buy that, like unless you give us worthwhile value to it. Because here's a confession to make, guys. I've paid for microtransactions. I've paid microtransactions in Heroes of the Storm and in other Blizzard games. Why? Because they gave me something worthwhile at the end of it. They gave me a really cool character in Heroes of the Storm that I love from other games, and all I had to do was pay $10 for him. I'm willing to do that. But the stuff that we're talking about in, say, like Pokemon Go, or in, unfortunately, the creator of all of this, Farmville.
Oh, God, yeah.
They're aiming towards the kids who want that instant gratification, and they don't have to worry about finances with the push of a button like their parents do. And I'm also just going to say, this for the record, Shay, be thankful you didn't live in Scandinavia, because $30 was $17,000.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want another classic example of a predatory microtransaction, once again bringing up Square Enix, many people may remember from Bravely Default, that weird Bravely Second feature that, you can charge it by leaving your DS in sleep mode for 8 hours, or you can pay for one of these potions to get a free to get these free charges of this Bravely Second. A key component of the game!
Yeah. Most of the microtransactions, I feel like, are just a way to have you keep playing the game so that you don't put the game down. Like, I know I will completely say, in Pokemon Go, I have spent money so I can, have more coins so I can buy items that I need, or that more so that I probably want, not so much need. But then, of course, like, I've even played the Harry Potter game, not the one that Niantic has came out with, but the one that came out before the one from Niantic.
Did you pay to get the Devil Snare off?
No. I never played I played the Niantic one.
Okay, good Shay.
Lost interest in it, but that's like a whole nother story. But it's the Harry Potter game that was like basically like a tap to play kind of a thing. And with that one, they did have microtransactions for you to continue playing. So like if your character like ran out of like being able to cast a spell, it was like, it gives you a timer that says, hey, you'll earn more lightning bolts or whatever in 5 minutes if you want to wait to play. Or you can like buy this, like he said, for $5, $3, and they give you this weird deal of like, hey, if you spend $60, you'll get this, which is the same value of this. So it's like just a way to make you continue to play the game. But I feel like more people are like, I feel a little bit better paying $3 for something rather than $60 for an entire game. So I feel like,
but we're also talking about two completely different animals too, and you actually kind of explained those. Pokemon Go is like 99 cents for this, all right? You don't have to buy it. In fact, you don't need it. You can still go out into the world and still play the game, whereas you have games like Harry Potter Hogwarts Mystery that literally prevented you from advancing unless you paid into the system. Or the horrible example here, if you want to play as Darth Vader in Star Wars Battlefront 2, you either pay extra amounts of money where you might have already paid $150 for your collector's edition, or you grind endlessly 8 hours a day every day of the week, and then maybe you'll be able to afford them until we jack up the price. That's the difference here, is that where some games are just allowing, this tiny little thing that makes things just a little bit better, and we're putting it at 99 cents. You don't have to buy it. You can still play the game however you want, versus we are going to literally block off gameplay for you until you pay us more money. And that's the difference here in the predatory actions, because game companies, you will never tell me that you haven't justified this in your head, that once the kid comes up to that paywall, they aren't immediately going to look for a button that fixes it. And you want them to.
That's why
That's the thing.
Before we used to tell parents, and we used to tell them like, hey, if your kid's playing a game that like at some point it's going to ask them to like hey, if you want more rubies, like you got to pay this much money. Like, don't put a credit card on the account. Just don't have one, because then they can't buy anything, or get them a store gift card. Do something else. Like, just do not put your credit card on there, because you're just asking for trouble. You're just asking for them to spend money.
Or just from my personal experience working for Boost Mobile, don't give kids phones. Don't give them phones, especially really expensive phones.
Yeah.
Don't do that. They will not respect it. It will come back broken to you, and your $2,000 investment will be gone. And they'll be like,
flip phones
please.
are cheaper, people. Flip phones are cheaper.
Yeah.
Dude, I've already decided, as soon as my kids get old enough, they're getting a brick. They're getting a 1980s brick.
Wow.
The cancer-inducing ones. Because then at that point, I'm going to look at you and go, this is the equivalent of me giving you a rundown Studebaker. You take care of that, and we'll work out the next one after you buy it.
Easier ways to give your daughter superpowers than instead of giving them the, cancer-inducing 1980s brick.
The only reason I would do this is because I have horror stories too of kids would do the dumbest things ever. There was this weird craze when I worked at Boost Mobile, and maybe you've kind of heard about this too, Shay, where they would take the SIM cards that were in the phones and swap them around, which they don't know this, and neither do the parents, by the way. I don't care what you say, person in whatever state, that you know that that's going to happen. No, you don't. Because you're the one that's acting shocked on the damn phone. But they'll swap them around, and yeah, sure, it gives you that cool interface that person deals with. But you swap them enough, and it has a potential to paperweight your phone. And then your dad calls me mad, really mad, in fact, that they spent $500 on a phone that no longer works. And then they wonder why my only answer to them is, sorry, your kid did that.
Yeah.
Don't buy him a
This
phone.
is also why you should read the terms of your warranty, which technically usually includes things of, hey, if you or your kid is an idiot with your device, we're not going to cover the repairs unless you pay for it.
Yeah, most people don't.
Yeah, exactly.
Conditions.
So final thoughts on this story, because I think we've pretty much hit the nail on the head. It's pretty much the usual microtransactions. Don't do it, guys. Don't give access to your kids having it.
And even if you're someone who doesn't have kids, if you are someone who is playing these games, it's called restraint. Like, if you're really getting tempted to, like, oh, I really want to invest the money in this game, ask yourself, okay, are you willing to pay, are you willing to pay the equivalent of how much it would cost to get Mario Kart 8 Deluxe on the Switch? Mm-hmm. Are you willing to invest that much in a mobile game? If the answer is yes, you probably have way too much disposable income.
Or read. Just read. Yeah. Read it. See that it costs money. Because some people will be like, I didn't know it cost anything. Mm-hmm. Like, you literally sat there and did your Face ID to confirm this cost. You didn't read it.
That's technically my advice to anybody whose kids has raised up their credit card bill, is you both need to sit down and read that stuff, because your kid needs to know what he did.
On any app that you download from the App Store and it says free, there's usually wording right underneath that says in-app purchases. Like, literally on the app, it will say in-app purchases. And if you actually click on the app before downloading it and do like a little more info, it'll tell you what you would actually have to pay for it and how much it will cost, so that you're not surprised about anything.
All right.
Yep. So do your research.
All right. So I'm going to actually cut this story short, because, again, we're running out of time. We have a couple of other stories. Then we actually do have some listener questions that I want to get to. I knew Blizzard was going to take forever, but that's just the way it goes. So moving on to the next story. This one is kind of a minor one, but I did at least want to address it because listeners also brought it up to us as well as the panel. So I can't remember what day it was, but Oscar-winning director Martin Scorcese was recently interviewed, and he's actually recently come under fire for the comments in that interview, asking in regards to his viewpoint on things like the MCU. And I'm looking for the exact quote that is in the article that we have, but basically what he said was he does not consider movies like the Marvel movies to be cinema, because he doesn't go and see them. If he does, this is literally the quote. If he doesn't see it, it's not cinema. Which is kind of a dumb thing to say, especially considering that, well, I could easily bounce that back, Martin, because you haven't put out cinema in years. All you've done is put out spank material for Leonardo DiCaprio so he could get his Best Actor nomination.
Kind of missing part of the quote. Like, I have the full...
I'm being a dick, but go on.
Here is the full quote that Scorsese said. It was in an interview. I'm looking... It was part of a press junket for his upcoming film, The Irishman. So when asked about the MCU and where they fit in the landscape, he says, I don't see them. I tried, but that's not cinema. Honestly, the closest I can think of them, as well made as they are, with actors doing the best they can under the circumstances, is theme parks. It isn't the cinema of human beings trying to convey emotional, psychological experiences to another human being. That is the full quote.
Yeah. That's the full quote, and I even have some debates with the full quote, but let's just be honest. He made fun of Marvel, so the fans went, Marvel actors! Marvel directors! Defend your product! And our Lord and Savior, Robert Downey Jr., came down from the heavens with his rockets going, oh, I'm sorry, and the thing to do, and I'm ready to rock! Okay, there we go. And he was asked he was asked his opinion on the Martin Scorsese comment. And this is his quote. It's his opinion. I mean, well, it plays in theaters. I appreciate his opinion, but it's like anything. We need all of the different perspectives so we can come to center and move on. It's one of those, I don't agree with him, but I also see his perspective kind of answers. I know that a few geeks were mad at it because they felt like he was playing Hollywood and trying to still be on good terms with Martin. But no, I think that was being honest. Is that Scorsese... These movies don't work for him because he has defined what his experience is when he goes to a film, when he tries to create cinema. And that's a fine definition. But the MCU, I would argue, is what I come to see. Like, this is what I want to see in a movie. This is what I pay exorbitant amounts of money now to be able to sit in a movie theater and watch. Now, sometimes, look, I knocked Scorsese and I knocked DiCaprio. Do you want to know what one of my favorite movies that has ever come out from Scorsese is? Gangs of New York. I watched that on HBO, and every time it was on, I had to watch it. Just because it went in some interesting directions that I never thought possible. And part of that is because of Leo's character in it. Yeah. I think he's in there. And also another one that I can't remember if it is Scorsese or not, Wolf of Wall Street. I love that one. Okay? But if you ask me to go and see, I don't what was the one that officially won? Revenant?
Yeah, that's the one that
is that the one that won Leo the award?
That one's another director.
Oh, okay. But if you asked me to go and see like another Scorsese film that isn't those and has more of the cinema qualities that he would want, there's no guarantee that I would.
Plus, when you consider his definition of popcorn movies is also a bit skewed, because an example of Scorsese doing a popcorn movie would be Shutter Island. By his own admission, that was his attempt at a popcorn movie blockbuster. And as a blockbuster, it's kind of, I mean, it's enjoyable, but even then, it's kind of meh. It's very much entrenched in Scorsese's style. And Robert Downey Jr. wasn't the only one to respond to this. This is just the latest of responses. Yeah, Samuel L. Jackson, James Gunn
Samuel L.
also
Jackson
as
did.
well.
Yeah.
And I kind of like Samuel L. Jackson's response, where he's just like, it's his opinion. Not everybody likes his movies either.
Yeah, so did Catherine Gillan also responded as well. Quite a few Marvel actors responded, and most of them were kind of like, it's his opinion. What he
they shrugged it off.
This is actually one of those times where I think the internet kind of imploded, or blew this up way too big, and then when they got the answers that they wanted, and I've seen this online, just like, Robert, how could you not defend your movies? You just died for them. Spoilers. But no, it's a logical answer. What is popcorn to me isn't going to be popcorn for Shay. Like, I love a Godzilla movie, and I gotta eat the popcorn when I'm watching it. But for you, that might be, I don't know, it could be romantic comedy.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not my thing.
Yeah.
But that could be yours, and that's why the definition is different.
Consider a lot of Scorsese's filmography. It's kind of like Romney put it. It's like Shutter Island is probably his more like popcorny style kind of film, so to speak. But a lot of Scorsese's movies have been largely very character driven. You know, movies like Taxi Driver, Goodfellas, you know, character driven, ensemble driven, just more about the story, about the characters themselves, more so than the spectacle, like a Marvel movie would be. So, you know, and it's not like Martin Scorsese's the first to kind of, you know, I don't want to say totally thumb his nose at superhero films, but maybe just kind of like express like, you know, whatever, they're there. You know, James Cameron did it like a couple of years ago, and
Spielberg
did it too.
Spielberg did it. I remember we covered it on back in the Radio SLCC days when Spielberg did it.
No, Spielberg, Cameron, a couple of directors have said it, and we've covered it, and we pretty much come to kind of the same definition here. But the other thing I was also going to bring up with you, Alex, is like, I mean, to you, like you love Scorsese films, correct?
Well, I can't say I've seen a bunch of them, but I do like the ones I've seen. I mean, I've seen like Goodfellas. I think I've seen. Maybe I haven't seen it all the way through. I know I've seen Casino, but I can't remember if I've seen that one all the way through. The Aviator is one I know I've seen all the way through. I like that one too. I'm gonna watch The Irishman when that hits Netflix.
But that's kind of the difference that I'm looking into is like when we get into Oscar picks and stuff like that, and believe it or not, like me and Alex actually get this kind of deal. Like you guys will never agree because I'm basically the football fan equivalent of movies, and then he's like the cultured person with the rosé in his hand. It's look, both answers matter because at that point, like, you know, this has actually been an interesting year because now we're hearing like major movements to get MCU, at least in particular Endgame, like a lot of major award categories. Not necessarily pushing for them to win, but getting them there just because they want to have that Lord of the Rings Return of the King moment where it's a potential landslide. But in reality, it's probably not going to happen. But that's great. I think that should happen. Here's the thing, too. Alex and me would be kind of in agreement that it should happen for the nominations. Should they be the winners? Well, that depends on what else came out.
Unfortunately, there'd be one person who would disagree with both of you, though, and that would be Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah. I feel like, though, it just shows how cinema just overall is changing. Like, if you take a look at, like, for example, if you take a look at the Oscars, you know, a lot of people complained that a lot of the movies at the Oscars, a lot of people had never seen or had never heard of. So you had a lot of people who had enjoyed the movies that were fairly popular and a little bit, in my opinion, on the more exciting side, you know, not get nominated. So they never felt the need to actually watch the Oscars at all, at least not for certain categories whatsoever. I think last year, I believe, I could be wrong about this, but when Black Panther was nominated for, I believe, like Best Picture, I want to say,
yeah, it was Best Picture.
Yeah,
I think that was the only one.
Oh no, they actually, and then they won for Best Costume Design though.
And score.
Yeah,
that's true. That's true. No, I was thinking in my head, like, did they get a Best Character or Best?
No,
actor
they didn't get. I don't think they got one. You know what?
I'll pull it up right now.
Yeah.
But I do know that it was nominated for.
You forgot, Shay. We have the Oscar feed.
I do remember that
here.
It was nominated for Best Picture though, and it was one of the first times like a superhero movie was actually like nominated within that category, and that showed just how overall like cinema itself is changing just because of the fact that the MCU did something that has not actually been done with a superhero movie, which was to create an entire universe where you had all these characters end up coming together to fight the big fight, and you all knew and loved the characters.
And to answer the question here, Black Panther nominated for sound mixing, sound editing, Best Picture of the Year, original song, achievement in production design, which it won, achievement in costume design, which it won, and original score, which it won.
Yeah, so best actor, best actress,
accolades or writing accolades.
I don't feel like at least at this point, I don't see an MCU movie ever getting someone for best actor or best actress, unless it is like a complete like where like they gave it their all. I know a lot of people were pushing for Robert Downey Jr. to be nominated for best actor for Endgame. I didn't completely agree with that because I was like, yeah, he's great, but I don't know if it's like best actor material.
And And it's funny because in the article we were reporting on, it actually discusses that because Howard Stern asked Robert Downey Jr. about that campaign, and Robert Downey
said
Jr.
no.
said, "Oh, hey, maybe let's not push for that."
I mean, look, Robert,
Yeah.
I love you as Tony Stark. But here's the thing. Where I think you did an amazing job, and I think that shows the tremendous potential that you have, that potential hasn't been pushed for a couple of years now. We need to have I would actually dare say the most push that Robert Downey Jr. has had. 2 movies come to mind. One of which is Sherlock Holmes, when he did his interpretation of that and tried to make a darker, a more book-centric Holmes. But also, I can't remember the name of it, but I think it was the son of a judge.
The film
and
is called The Judge.
Got framed for murder.
The judge wasn't framed.
The judge.
It was like, because I actually saw this movie when it came out, so it was called The Judge.
I still need
it's
to
good,
see it. I want to see it.
The idea is that the judge, it's a hit and run case where the judge was behind the wheel of the car, and basically Robert Downey Jr. plays the judge's son, who was also a lawyer who defends him in the case.
Yeah, and so here's the difference. Like these roles pushed him. Why did they push him? Because he wasn't being Tony Stark. All right? And here's the bottom line. I love Tony Stark. I love the Robert Downey Jr. version of Tony Stark. But basically after a while, those films became, we want you to be John Wayne. Not actual John Wayne, but like, we want you to be John Wayne on camera. That's all we care about. And so at that point, I agree completely. I think we need to find that role that is going to get him the Best Actor nomination.
Well,
but thankfully now, he can be, because of how much money he earned with the MCU and the fact he's no longer tied to it, he can look for those
people
projects
forget, he did actually win a Best Actor Oscar in 93.
for Chaplin, I think, wasn't it?
He did.
For portraying Charlie Chaplin.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so in his mind, and so it's probably in his mind, he's just like, I've already won an Oscar, I don't need another one.
Yeah, true, but I'd actually like to see that happen because, in my opinion, pre and post Tony Stark, Robert Downey Jr.'s are completely different people, mainly because Robert went to jail, and so at that point, I would love to see him get an Oscar in that kind of format now that he's done that, because I think his acting has changed and it's gotten better.
But there's one thing that, and this is a point I always mention whenever people discuss the Oscars, regarding just really how important they are in the grand scheme of things, and it kind of boils down to this simple question that I'll throw out to the panel here. How many of you can remember any lines of dialogue or any scenes from Annie Hall?
It's true, I don't.
Okay.
That's why I should not have won over Star Wars.
Exactly. You beat me to the point. It's like, how many people remember Annie Hall? Silence. How many of you can remember lines of dialogue or scenes from Star Wars? You can probably rattle off 3 or 4. Both films were nominated for Best Picture. Annie Hall won Best Picture. More people remember Star Wars. So, in terms of the Oscars being some metric of success for cinema, well, look at which one more people talk about.
Yeah.
Yep, and the other thing I'd also point out is clearly Shay has not been on an Oscar podcast with us, because then at that point you would hear me and Romney toting the Pat Yourself on the Back festival that we think the Oscars have become.
That's the tamer way of putting it. I call it the industry-wide circle jerk.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, it's just they're trying to make the Oscars younger because they realize that a lot of people aren't watching the Oscars just because of the fact that there's... I don't watch it because there's nothing there that I can say like, oh, I really want to see this movie win, because half of the movies I've never seen, and then half of the movies that I know are going to win are ones that I'm like, I don't even know this movie was ever out. Like, where was this playing? Like, I've never seen this movie. I don't even know who this actor even is. Like, what? Who is this? And it's like,
or you could be and you're probably in this situation too, Shay, where like Alex and Romney, where you guys watch the best animation category and you see this amazing anime film get nominated, and it's the Disney film
not
that
even
wins.
always just the anime film. There's even just a good non-Disney film.
I mean, previous year excluded, because I mean, out of nowhere into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, that was the upset. But I know the kind of the moment that killed the Oscars for me was, you had Paranorman and Brave both up for Best Animated Feature, and many people may recall my review of Brave that year. It is not a good Pixar film. It has problems. Yet, which one won? The Pixar movie.
Yeah.
Which is funny because last weekend I officially saw Paranorman in entirety, And I can tell you for a fact,
Yeah,
it
I feel like
beat
it's based
Brave.
off of Reputation.
It absolutely beat Brave.
It's
based
not
off
even
of
Yeah,
something
no,
that has a
yeah,
reputation
exactly.
for winning.
Well, yeah, it's not even just Reputation, because there was an article we covered a few years back regarding people. It was like comments from the actual people who were basically appointed to screen these animated films, because after the Best Animated Feature category was created, you had it where the animators voted on it, which, made sense. It made too much sense that the Academy decided, we'll just let everyone vote on animation. That's going to be so much better. And then stories started coming out saying, oh yeah, these people who, are tasked with, deciding these winners don't even watch all the movies. I mean, some of them even admit that there's like, oh yeah, I waited in the lobby for my kids to come out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. And so at that point, you're already walking in handicapped. Like, you should have gone in and seen it.
For me, one of the biggest, this wasn't even an upset, but for me, one of the biggest moments I remember watching from the Oscars, which was like the funniest moment also for me when watching the Oscars, it was when 3 6 Mafia won for Best Song, It's Hard Out Here for a Pimp, from Cadillac Records. I almost lost my mind at home when I watched it, because I never thought that song would win. I was like, there's no way they're gonna let this win at all. It's not gonna win. And then they was like 3 6 Mafia, and they went up there in like the big t-shirts and the pants, and I was like, first of all, I'm happy y'all won, but I'm also very embarrassed, because like, what is going on? But I was also like
exactly. I mean,
super shocked, because I'm like, that one, like, I want to know who within that committee listened to It's Hard Out Here for a Pimp and got in their feelings enough that they were like, this needs to win. Because I was like, what?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, you have to explain it.
And then they even talked about the age range of the people
sense.
on the committee who vote on the movies, and a lot of them are like older, and it's like, there's no way that they're going to let a newer movie win.
There was literally a running joke before, Harvey Weinstein was revealed to be the awful human being that he is, where it's like, oh yeah, Harvey Weinstein is on good terms with the nursing home that all of the voting members live at.
Yeah, pretty much. All right, so we actually do need to get moving. So final thoughts on this one. To me, it's kind of a non-point. Scorsese can have his opinion. Robert can have his.
Yeah.
I don't think
of it as just old man yelling at cloud like usual. Just more like filmmaker of a different generation, a different type of cinema that he's used to, and Marvel's just different.
Yeah. Yeah, Spielberg probably would have agreed with him. I don't think Robert Downey would have. And that's just because of the generational
I know the one
divide
director who weighed in, James Gunn, director of Guardians of the Galaxy, kind of saying like, hey, I have immense respect for Scorsese, so I'm kind of disheartened that he would say this about our films. But again, it's a generational thing.
Yeah.
And, well, things were different back when Scorsese was coming to prominence, whereas, well, it's pretty much a night and day difference with this generation of filmmakers.
Pretty much. So moving on into the next story that we have, actually the last story we have before the listener questions, and this one we'll probably not spend too much time on just because there isn't a whole lot to work with. But earlier this week, Sony basically dropped a bomb with a bunch more PS5 details. So let me go ahead and go over the big ones that people wanted us to discuss. First things first. We have a release window for the PlayStation 5. It is going to be holiday 2020, which is kind of expected. Like these console launches, despite the Switch, they tend to go for the holiday seasons because those are the big money getters for that particular year.
We were all
so at that point,
predicting that PS5 was on track for like next year.
Yeah, we pretty much were, and I think I actually said holiday 2020 because that seems to be the norm for Sony and Microsoft.
Yeah.
Aim for the holidays. So that we have that. Next off, we have the price point for the PS5, and that is between the range of $399 and $499.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll admit I'm actually kind of surprised. The bare minimum I had set was $499, and then I actually thought it could have gone as high as $699, considering what PS5 and Scarlet are saying that they're capable of doing. But yeah, $399 to $499. Like I almost want to give a little bit of credit to Sony here. They're kind of playing the Nintendo method.
Yeah, another factor is that maybe the stuff that they need to manufacture it has just gotten cheaper. Now that it's at a point where they're not having to completely build a bunch of new engines, since the article mentions that they've been partnering with groups like Radeon for materials. And so it's a case of where maybe they just found ways to basically make it cheaper and not to the detriment like we saw with the initial launch of the PlayStation 3. So there could be a lot of factors like that to consider.
The other thing that we should also point out, and people are questioning and scratching their heads over, is that the PS5 has officially announced that it is going to be capable of not only 4K, but 8K!
Yet another resolution that we can't really see.
What does that mean for you?
Nothing.
It's Sony looking you in the eye and saying, buy another TV. So, yeah, it's not a big deal, especially for gamers on a budget, but I know that a lot of the early adopter gamers, especially games journalists, are very happy about, oh my gosh, 8K is a thing. But then again, those were the same people that said 3D TV was going to last.
Yeah.
Oops. So at that point, like, we have that up, and then the other one that specifically our listeners wanted me to bring up with Alex, because they know he has this problem, because of the fact that they have the ongoing relationships with companies like Radeon, like Romney mentioned, as well as the fact that a lot of the development in the PS5 has been very close to what they did in development for the PS4, they have officially announced that backwards compatibility with the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 4 Store, and PlayStation 4 Pro are going to be built into the PlayStation 5. They also did say that they're working on PSVR, but this is something that's been bouncing back and forth. They're working on it. It's not official yet. They're still having issues getting the compatibility to work for PSVR. I think they'll figure it out by then, but it's not set in stone yet. So PSVR, not officially there, but you will be able to play your PS4 games as well as digital PS4 games will work.
It does say here that the existing, so the current version of the PlayStation VR hardware will be compatible. It just remains to be seen whether there will be a VR 2.0 or not.
Yeah, we're not sure about that either. And in fact, one of the things I've also said is that if they can't make the compatibility work completely with PSVR, there will be a PSVR 2.0 just because they have no choice. They got to get that done. So, that being said, first of all, before we move into the launch lineup and give our opinions on that, Alex, your thoughts on backwards compatibility, and Shay, if you want to add something in,
I think
you're
that's
more than
great
welcome.
news. So that might make me have incentive to trade up a little bit. I probably won't be like trading day one here, running out to buy the PS5 as soon as it's out, but down the road a little bit, I'm like, I won't feel as hesitant as I was when the PS4 came out. I wasn't.
Now, here's another thing that I need to point out to you guys as well, because I forgot to mention this part. If you have a 4K TV in your home, and you have the PlayStation 4 game that is capable of PS4 Pro graphics, you can actually upgrade it. You can actually upgrade the resolution into it and be able to play your dingy little PS4 game on PS4 Pro equivalent graphics. So that's the other thing that should be mentioned there too. Thoughts on that, Alex?
Okay, I mean, the whole upscale thing isn't as important to me. I think 4K, 8K, it's all just a big gimmick. No one sees in 4K. You don't see in 8K. If you say you do, you're just placeboing affect yourself. I don't think that's a word.
Or you're a shrimp,
Or
you're a shrimp where you can see like those extra colors.
See, the comparison that I get is, or you're a fly.
Pigeon.
Yeah, you don't see that higher resolution.
20/20 vision. It'll only see it.
It might look a little cleaner, might look a little sharper, but at the end of the day, it's just as good as 1080p or a little higher.
Or you could have my interpretation. It looks grosser.
You'll be able to see the pores perfectly on when you watch a movie, but just.
Dude, I'm just saying this for the record. When I'm in Best Buy right now, I know this is off track, but I have to say this. If I'm going where the 4K and 8K TVs are and they have CNN on and there's somebody doing a press conference, I can't watch. I can't watch anymore because they look gross.
The acne forming in real time.
You can literally see like I don't know what it's called, but like the crap that forms up in your eyes when you sleep. You can see that forming up in their eyes. It's gross. I was with my brother one day. We went to an AKTV and we saw, I can't remember, insert 60-year-old politician talking. And we literally looked at him and went, yeah, he needs a root canal on that tooth. I think he needs to have a cavity removed on that tooth. Like, you could see the holes in his
I don't
teeth.
need someone that up close and personal with me that much.
No.
Guys, movies look awful in 60 FPS. I'm sorry, they do.
Yeah,
or higher.
It didn't work for The Hobbit, people. Let it go.
Games look great.
Anyway, Shay, your thoughts on this?
I think it's cool. Like, I feel like, I feel like the backwards compatibility, I feel like would probably be the biggest selling point for a lot of people, especially if there's someone that's like, I want to buy a new system, but I also don't want to feel like I can't play the games that I already have on my PS4, or I feel like I have to re-hook up my PS4 all the time so I can play those games. So I feel like the backwards compatibility is going to be the biggest selling point. It's going to be a big seller for holiday 2020 because all the kids and all the gamers are going to probably want to get this. The price point, I feel like, is probably the most amazing part too.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's the biggest issue that I know that I've heard from a lot of parents when it comes to systems is that they're like, a new system comes out every year and they all cost like $600-700. And then it's like with this one being like $399 or $499, it's also competing with the Switch since that's around the same price. So it's like, you have a kid that's like, I want a PS5. It's like, okay, that's a little bit more reasonable compared to me buying you like an Xbox, which I don't know how much Xbox costs right now, so I apologize if they're like.
Right now, the speculation for Scarlet, this isn't confirmed, but the bare minimum that people are saying is $499. That's the bare minimum they can conceive that it could be, and Xbox would be at a loss taking that. It might actually be like $599 because of how much they're boasting what Scarlet can do.
I feel like that's going to be the biggest thing because, of course, with everybody around Christmas time, it always comes down to how much is this going to cost me? And also, like, how long is this system going to last before a new system comes out? Because I know that's the biggest thing of, like, if you're buying a system every single year, it's like, I'm only going to play this system for a year until another system comes out that's going to be newer, faster, and better. It's the same thing people say about cell phones. They're like, oh, you're upgrading every single year, but what is it doing differently?
Exactly. I mean, this is definitely the argument. Unless you're an early adopter and that doesn't matter to you. Really quick, I want to bust through the release, or at least the potential release lineup that we're going to have for this so that we can get to the listener questions. We already know that Last of Us Part 2 is not going to be on the release day lineup just because it's going to be coming out February of 2020. So, and that actually might be better for Naughty Dog. People have been waiting a long time for Last of Us Part 2. So at that point, it might not be a good idea to make them wait another 6 months. So Naughty Dog might have made the right idea there. The next one up is Ghost of Tsushima as a potential launch title for the PS5, and that is made by Sucker Punch. I would not be surprised because what we've seen of that game, it looks like it's still very much in development, and so at that point, if it doesn't come out as a release title for PS5, it's going to be for PS5. So that does make sense to me. Really quick, Romney, like you're also interested in Ghost of Tsushima. Are you agreeing or disagreeing?
Honestly, in regards to like just a lot of the lineup and everything, I'm still kind of on the fence in regards to a lot of it. So it's still being, I can see with a lot of these games, them kind of doing what Nintendo did with Breath of the Wild and Twilight Princess, where they just make it for both. That way you have that nice transition. That way you can still get the.
Well, they don't even need to do that either because
but even then they may try to. Like Sony, I can see Sony being like, oh hey, yeah, you can release it for both. Just maybe to put something in the PS5 version to try to sell a few more consoles. Because again, that's what Nintendo did with Twilight Princess and Breath of the Wild, where they implemented a few features, a few tweaks to make them just different enough to make people think that the newer version is slightly better, even if it is relatively the same game.
Yep. The next one is CD Projekt Red's Cyberpunk 2077. I don't think this has a release date yet, so yeah, it's possible that it could be coming out for the PS5. That would be a good launch title for it to have, considering the Keanu Reeves hype that is behind that thing. We love Keanu. Keanu has a robot arm.
Oh.
I wasn't on board with everybody else. I was just like, okay. Beyond Good and Evil 2, this is definitely going to be a PS5 title. I do not think it'll be a launch title either. Ubisoft, from what they've been able to show Beyond Good and Evil 2, I don't even think it's that far in development, in all honesty. I think they've still got a ways to go. Neo 2 is also being in consideration. That would be a good launch title. Neo fans would be able to rejoice at that, but it just depends. I don't know if... I think we don't have a release date for Neo 2 yet, but it is in demo stages, so it could release before then, too. The next one, Marvel's The Avengers. I do not think that this is going to be on there. I think it'll release earlier than the PS5, but then you will have the integration to the PS5 for it. Considering that we are getting trailers for new characters right now, and demos are going out, so it's definitely likely we're going to get this earlier than that, in my opinion. And the FF7 remake, we already know it's not coming out at release, but it'll probably have some added perks once the PS5 comes out. We also have Starfield. Nobody cares, it's Bethesda. Bethesda pissed off too many people. And then that's it. So those are the potential titles that we could be looking at. And then also another one that got brought up in our live chat, God of War 5. That could technically happen. I do not see it at launch, though. I see it happening a year or two later. We know the game's in development, but I believe when they started it, they might not have had PS5 dev kits yet. They had to start on PS4 dev kits, and then they eventually got the PS5 dev kits. So they might have to do a little bit of reintegration to move it up to 8K. But, yep, those are it. Agreements or disagreements with those launch titles?
I guess.
Honestly, there's not really too much to be said because, again, there's still a lot we don't know. I mean...
I will say this. I think it would be a good idea for Sony to have a left hook that nobody expects for the PS5. PS4 technically didn't have that. And no, I'm not considering Infamous Second Son to being that. They didn't really, or what was the other one? The, Killzone Shadow, crap, I can't remember what it was called, but the Killzone game that came out at launch, those were not left hooks. I think they honestly need to have some kind of a left hook nobody expects for PS5 to have that, and who knows, at E3 2020, we might see what that left hook is.
Yeah. I feel like they'll probably save everything for that.
Yeah, pretty much. I would actually expect that we will probably get one more unveiling of the PS5 just to show it, maybe at the Game Awards, but then after that it's going to be straight quiet until E3. If E3 even happens. They might do their own unveil event, I don't know. All right, so moving on into the listener questions that we have. The first one we specifically have, and I don't know this for certain, but I think it's from your audience, Shay, as well as maybe even cater to Romney, because as you both have pointed out this week, it is National Mental Health Week. And so our first question is, with so much bad going on, even in our fandoms, what can we do to take care of our own mental health to keep from breaking down into massive depression? That's hard. It's been a rough year. I'm still thinking on my answer. Like I haven't finalized it, but let's give it to Shay first if you already have your answer, since I think this is kind of targeted towards you.
For me, I guess what I tend to do is I always try to find the things that make me happy, or the things that I know can always put a smile on my face. So I know that there's a lot of bad stuff that goes on in the world, and even among the different fandoms. So sometimes I just take a step away from the fandoms and just sometimes I watch something that has nothing to do with the fandoms in particular, but just can keep a smile on my face and just makes me happy. And sometimes even if it takes you like clearing out your social media and, you know, not following those that you feel like are always posting stuff that's extremely negative, that also can be very helpful. For me, I mostly watch a lot of stuff on YouTube, and I know that for me in particular, I've also gotten back into watching Fruits Basket, the one that the remake one that Funimation has put out, and those are things that truly make me happy. And then on YouTube, I tend to just watch anything that I can set my mind on. So like for me, I even love watching like the Marvel actors interviews that people have like put the funniest moments in, because I know that just makes me laugh. So I know that's for me is very helpful. And also journaling. I'm a huge proponent for journaling and writing out my feelings and what is really going through my head, especially if I feel like I can't talk to anyone about it. And it just helps me to put a lot of things in perspective. And even if like you're writing it and you're just like, I don't know how to start, honestly, just write. Don't worry about proper grammar. Don't worry about punctuation. Just write. And a lot of times you'll feel a lot better because it's gotten all out onto paper and you have a way of also reflecting back on it. Um, that's mostly what I do. Sorry if it rambled, but that's kind of like what I do.
No, that's fine. I think in all honesty, and like most answers work here, and really all we can do is just kind of relate from our own perspective. Romney, I'm going to go to you next because I also know you did a video on this. So let's get your perspective.
The video
first.
itself wasn't really planned. I didn't even realize it was National Mental Health Day yesterday until a musician that I follow on Instagram by the name of Joy Frost posted a video sharing her experiences. So I'm going to more or less regurgitate kind of what she said in her video, since she put it a lot more succinctly than I did in my video. And so in regards to dealing with things like depression and just taking care of your mental health, there's a little bit of a checklist you should kind of go through if you find yourself slipping into a depressive slump. First, did you get enough sleep? Because lack of sleep can make symptoms of depression or any other mental illness a hell of a lot worse. And I speak from experience. So first, did you get enough sleep? Second, have you eaten? Did you get enough to eat? Because that can also affect your mental state. Third, have you bathed?
Yep.
Because do you feel clean? Have you dressed yourself properly? Have you taken the time to actually take care of yourself? And then 5, four. Yeah, 4. So like sleep, food, cleaning. Dang it, I forgot the whole checklist, but those are the big 3 that I know for, at least in my experience, are things to watch out for is, okay, get enough sleep, make sure that you eat, because when you don't eat, or if you're not eating healthily, I'm not saying you have to go on a specific diet, but just even making sure that you're taking the time to cook something for yourself, and actually sitting down, taking the time to eat can work wonders. Oh, now I remember. 4th one, have you exercised? I know there are a lot of people maybe think, oh, well, everyone always says exercise is good for you, but even just going for a walk for 30 minutes, on a nice day, granted it's getting harder because, well,
going for a walk for 30 minutes is a great way to clear your head.
Plus, the added benefit of going for a walk, since walking is a low impact exercise, it burns fat. So if you're trying to lose weight, it's like, hey, that's an extra plus. That's something I've been using a lot, trying to get my weight under control. And those are most that I can recall from that checklist. Is first taking care of the basic essentials for your physical health, because you're basically, to borrow a phrasing from Taoist philosophy, the mind is the body, and the body is the mind. If you're not taking care of one, the other will suffer. And so if you're not taking care of your body, your mind's going to suffer. So in terms of taking care of your mind, I mean, one, putting down the phone, disconnecting from social media for a while. I mean, although it's nice to be informed about everything going on in the world, sometimes you just have to look away because there's so many crises. And even if you're Superman, you can't fix all of them. I mean, that's been the premise of literally a bunch of really good Superman stories, like Superman Peace on Earth, where he literally tries to tackle world hunger, and the whole point of the story is he can't just use his powers to solve something as complicated as world hunger. And so sometimes you just have to look away, and it even sometimes means avoiding particular pieces of media that can set you off. Now, I'm coming from perspective of someone who has been working on controlling their anger and getting that under control. And it's actually one of the reasons why I'm still a little on the fence about my opinions of Joker, due to what the film triggered in me. But again, a lot of that is due to my own personal biases and experiences and perspectives. And so a better example, one that's a little less timely but a bit more relevant, is avoiding. So if you're someone who gets really worked up about police brutality or worked up about the flaws in the criminal justice system, maybe avoid shows like Law and Order or Criminal Minds, stuff like that, where
I'd say definitely avoid them.
Like stuff like that
that's
either
me, though.
ignores the flaws or tries to comment on them, but does it in a way that is considered safe. Shows like that are one of the things that really set me off, which is a real shame because I do like those shows. But again, even if it's something you like, if you know it's going to set you off, if you know it's going to get you worked up, if you know if it's going to put you in a bad mood, put it away, do something else that basically gets your mind off it, whether it's reading a book or even just watching something else, like watching a comedy that you like to go to, or just something that isn't associated with those emotions, which on some days it can be really hard. At least it was for me, coming off of more than 5 years of being a film critic where I couldn't really even watch movies anymore because it felt like work. Sometimes just finding that thing that isn't tied to any of your projects, anything you're working on, tied to anything, something that is just that you do strictly for fun, that it is just a pastime, whether it's playing a game or drawing or painting, just a hobby that you do for the sake of doing it and no other means in and of itself, where it's just where it's just something you do for the sake of you like to do it and not much else. And I'm starting to ramble and repeat myself, so I think I'll just end it here.
one,
Yeah, I was about to cut you off. No offense.
One of the things I also want
go ahead, Shay.
like add in really quick as well is that also, figure out what your triggers are, and a lot of times that can help a lot in understanding what triggers you to get into a bad mental health state. And also, it's okay. I gotta repeat this. It's okay to not be okay mentally, or not to feel like you're okay mentally. Because I know a lot of times, I know at least for me, when I get into my depressive moments, I really beat myself up about it because I really start to feel like I'm bringing everybody else down, or I really need to try and perk up. But recognize that it's okay for you to feel that way, and just take a break. Just take a complete break. If you have a whole bunch of stuff that's on your agenda, I know for me, I was in one of those moods yesterday where I was just, nothing that I felt like I know I needed to accomplish was going to make me happy. I was like, I know I got to record a video, but I just don't feel like it. I just mentally am just sad. I'm depressed. I'm just upset, and I don't know why. And there's nothing I want to do that I know I need to do, but I don't want to do it. And I let myself feel those feelings. I let myself just put everything on hold that I was going to do. I even put out on my own Twitter, like, hey, I'm taking a break for a little bit. There won't be a new video for Saturday. I just need a break. I needed time to get my mental health state back together. And I just did what made me happy and just let myself just watch mindless YouTube, or just sit and then just reflect, and then also just write out my feelings and how I was feeling in that moment.
Which for the record, like that's a great decision to do. We you weren't here for this, Shay, but I mean we tackled this last week too, where a lot of people are dealing with YouTube burnout and the fact that they've been forcing themselves to maintain consistency because YouTube tells you to. But then at that point, like, what happens when crap hits the fan in your life? Well, I mean, you have to be able to, in my opinion, step away from the videos, because if you're already stressed out, if you're already depressed, it really just doesn't help the creative process.
To add to that point of it's okay to not be okay. There literally is a song where that is literally the lyrics, once again mentioned by the aforementioned artist Joy Frost, that summarizes it pretty succinctly.
Alex, do you want to take this before I step in?
More than I think I can add, other than just reiterate what all of you have said. Especially if we're talking about fandoms that might be dragging you down, just distance yourself from them for a while. At least try,
take a breather.
I'm very lucky because, I mean, I'm obviously part of the larger anime fandom, but I also have my little small tiny corner of fandom with my closest friends, which includes our aforementioned channel artist Marta. She's one of my dear friends, and we all get along very well. We all talk to each other.
Spoiler, this doesn't include me because he'd rather strangle
that's
me.
Another matter entirely. I'm kidding. But we all talk to each other pretty much almost daily, and we all get along great. We all just relax, hang out together. We're a bunch of friends who get on Discord and we chat, and that's my way to kind of distance myself from some of the uglier sides of fandom sometimes. Just be with them, because I know that I can depend on that.
So as far as my viewpoint on the matter, this is what I've been dealing with all year. Like, I know I keep on saying it, guys, and maybe I'll finally get around to making that video I keep on saying I'm gonna make. But this is pretty much what I've had to deal with. Is like I've struggled with massive depression all year, and it's simply because my mental health has been just pretty much wrecked down to basic framing. And so at that point, like, it's funny. People ask me, like, if I view this as a negative year, and it's hard not to look at it that way. But I've started to actually define it as a year of reformation, because basically what happened here is that I got broken down to my very core, and now I have to build myself back up. There are a couple of things that I think have been stated, but I'm going to reiterate just really quick. If you are in a negative state of mind, get off social media right now. I know that I know we all have that justification of, like, we have that one person there that's really supportive, but here's the problem. And maybe I'm in the wrong, maybe this is my viewpoint, but when I get on social media, it almost feels like its algorithms are set to take everything negative and everything that will push my buttons and put that right up to the top. Because I get that stuff first, and then let's just say, for the sake of argument, something good is happening in Romney's life. I won't find out about that particular statement until maybe a month later, when it hits the top of my feed for some weird reason. So at that point, I would actually say, like, as much as you love those guys, if you love those guys enough, find another place to be able to talk to them, like talk to them via text. But get off social media. Social media is just, especially this year, has proven itself to be nothing but a cesspool. And I know that there are good people on it. I know, and they're struggling just as much as you. But all you do is feed the monster when you're on that thing. Because it's literally going to sit there and tell you you're a piece of crap and here's why, just because of what comes up at the beginning of your feed. So I would say, bottom line, get off social media, go have a breather, go figure things out for yourself before you go back. And don't be afraid to take like a month. Don't be afraid to take like a month off. In regards to what Shay said about knowing your triggers, the other thing I would add to that is, look, everybody has blind spots. I have tons of them. I don't know everything that triggers me. And so sometimes I can get triggered via a blind spot, never see it, and I'm immediately a problem for everybody. Here's the difference, though. In Shay's and my cases, like, I have a wife who knows them too and can point them out to me. I'm guessing, Shay, your boyfriend can do that too. Like, he knows when you're in that state. So my other advice would be is that you need to have somebody just as important as that in your support network. Does it have to be your boyfriend or girlfriend? No. Absolutely not. In fact, the example I would place is Alex just gave us a good example. He stays in contact with 3 to 4 people who know him inside and out, and he talks to them every day. So they could literally tell you via his text, probably, whether or not he's having a good day. And if he's not, they're the ones that probably pull you aside, Alex, and say, like, do you need to talk?
Yeah.
So have that. Have a good friend that you see every now and then. And here's the thing. If you haven't seen that good friend in a while, how about you go and catch up? That's been one of the biggest things I've had to deal with this year. I have felt like the most terrible friend for the last 3 years because I have not seen any of my closest friends in person for that amount of time. And so one of the things I've done, I've gone and seen them. And I've gone and spent a lot of quality time with them, and it's helped. So much so that I like, I love YouTube, but I would prioritize them over YouTube, and it's simply because I love them that much, and they help that much in my life. The other thing that I would also recommend, and I'm sorry, Romney, I'm going to take the Romney's Reading Club from you for a second, because I think this is right up the alley of those people. I'm going to recommend a book called The Happiness Advantage by Sean Acker. I've been reading this all year, and it's actually been a godsend for me. I have felt broken, battered, a failure, and this book has made me look at my life from a whole different perspective. And the main reason it has is because I spend so much time, because of social media, because of doing podcasts, because of all that stuff, focusing on the negative, that my brain just focuses on the negative. It's instinctive. If there's something positive, I'm not going to notice that in a crowd of negative. And so this book has actually been able to help out with making me look at the positive, being able to focus on the positive, and being able to see more positive in my life. One of the principles in it is called the Tetris effect. If you see a pattern amongst the stuff that you regularly deal with, you will constantly, in your head, look for that stuff. And like in Tetris, where if you know how Tetris works, you know how to, it becomes instinctive. You can make the lines and not have to think about it. Same thing with negativity. And so all you have to do is build that Tetris effect with positive stuff. For example, one of the things I've done, as I've been seeing a counselor too, who made me get a phone app where I had to write 3 positive things that happened to me that day. And I have to look at that every day. Why? Because it's the Tetris effect of seeing more positive in life than negative. I'm not there yet. I still have those issues, but I do this every day because I'd rather look at things positively.
I actually do the same thing. I have a little diary. It looks like this. I got off of Amazon, literally. Mm-hmm. And each day you write down 3 things you're grateful for, or 3 things that, that are great in your life. Then you write down how are you going to make today great? And then you also write a positive affirmation for yourself. And you do it in the morning and at night. And at night it asks you what was your good deed that you did today? What are 3 things that happened for you today? And it just puts a lot of things into perspective so that you're, like you said, you're not focusing on the negative. You are focusing a little bit more on the positive. Yep.
So if you guys are having this issue, and in fact to the panel as well, if you guys are having this issue, I recommend you guys go and get The Happiness Advantage by Sean Acker. It's literally for $10. It's free on Audible. You guys can get it there. Or there's actually a bunch of little workbooks you can get in your local bookstore that are cheaper. And those workbooks are the exact same book. It's just trying to implement the principles of The Happiness Advantage in a different way. So at that point, that's kind of my viewpoint on the matter, and that's ultimately what I would recommend to you guys if you're having issues with mental health. Also, if things get, I think this needs to be said, if things get bad enough, don't be afraid to go see a counselor.
Yeah, and if time is something that's an issue for you with seeing a counselor, I use the BetterHelp app, which is connects you with a counselor, and you're able to schedule phone calls with them or texting or however is most convenient for you, so that you don't have to feel like you have to take off of work or find time to go physically see someone in an office. That's what I do, since my work schedule is a little bit difficult for me to give me that time to drive somewhere and physically be in someone's office.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. So let's go ahead and get into the last question, because again, we're kind of over here. But this one I don't think is going to take that long. If there was one game, anime, movie, or TV show you'd recommend that came out this year to somebody who's looking for something to watch and or play, what would it be and why would you recommend it? Now, because of the time constraint, I'm going to, originally I was going to say, let's try and figure out as many as we can. I'm going to restrict you to 2 of them. You can pick 2 of those categories and say, this is what I recommend and why I would recommend it. And so to adhere to the rules, because I'm such a good guy, my recommendations are, first of all, I'm going to recommend a game, Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, because sorry, Romney, I know that was probably in your list. Bloodstained Ritual of the Night has been an amazing game for me to play. It's an old school Metroidvania. It brings me back to the days of Symphony of the Night and the GBA Castlevania games. And it's so colorful, it's so vibrant, and occasionally it throws boobs at you. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. It does throw the female form at you quite a bit, but I like it nonetheless. It's still very enjoyable. Thank you, Iga, for creating such an awesome game and taking so much time to create it. That would be my game recommendation. My anime recommendation is Food Wars Season 4, because the bottom line is that arc needs to finish. I think it's actually getting started right now. It's October, so I think at least the first episode should be out right now. So if you guys have been following the Totsuki Train arc, that's going to end. And here's the bottom line. If you need a good laugh in your life, just sit back and watch the Foodgasms. They'll get you going. It's bottom line. I know it's weird and leery and all that, but some of those Foodgasms are just absolutely fucking funny. So those are my recommendations. Romney, your recommendations for, if you had 2 recommendations, what would they be and why?
Well,
would
you took
recommend
one
them?
of them, so So I only really have one recommendation left, mostly because it's been the one game that's occupied most of my free time, and that would be Fire Emblem Three Houses, because it's basically one replay value. You've got 4 different story paths you can take within 3 houses. One of them is kind of hidden, but if you've played the game, you know where the junction point is, where you can go to the 4th route. And so you've got like 4 different stories each with their own set of characters, but you can also recruit characters from the other houses if you so choose. And it also is probably one of the most realistic explorations of what actually leads to war that we've seen in the series for quite a while. While some people are saying, oh yeah, but Genealogy, the Holy War went into it. Well, that never came to the States. So compared to its predecessor, Fates, it feels basically like Fire Emblem Fates, but done right in terms of the case of like player choice and all that. So one, replay value. So if you don't have a lot of money for a lot of games, well, I'm still playing Fire Emblem Three Houses a good, let's see, it came out July-ish, I think. And so I'm still playing it like a good 3 or 4 months later. So that would be my recommendation. If you're someone who's a bit cash strapped and only has enough money for one AAA title, that would be my recommendation if you have a Switch, is Fire Emblem Three Houses. Lots of story content with a very rich array of characters that you each grow to love in their own different ways, but can also grow to hate depending on your choices in the story.
All right. Shay, what are your recommendations and why do you recommend them?
So, for anime, I recommend Carol and Tuesday because it's actually a really, really good anime. It's on Netflix. It only has the first 13 episodes out. It has really, really good music. So I definitely recommend watching it, especially if you're someone who was a fan of Cowboy Bebop or a fan of that universe. Since it seems to be set within the same universe. I know it's made by the same director. May not be set in the same universe, but I do know that the currency in there is Wulongs, which is the same currency. Cowboy Bebop.
Really? Okay.
I don't watch a lot of TV anymore because I'm like mainly watch YouTube now. So if I can recommend a YouTuber, can I do that?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
So it isn't like an anime YouTuber or anything like that. The YouTuber's name is simply Naillogical. She does nail videos, but not all her videos are about nails. I promise you this. She does really funny videos. Like she mixes all the teas that she has together for both hot and cold to see how they would taste. There's like really, really funny videos. And the best part, what makes her a lot likable, is that YouTube is literally just her hobby because she actually works for the Canadian government. Like she has an actual government job she works at 5 days a week. And she says this.
Oh, my condolences.
She's just really, really funny. And I do recommend watching her YouTube videos because for me, I watch her a lot and she always can put a smile on my face and always just makes me really happy and makes me actually like chuckle and laugh out loud. So, and she makes fun of herself, which is amazing.
Okay, and then Alex the Shadow Blazer, what are your recommendations and why do you recommend them?
I have one on mind, and well, I'm the anime guy, so of course I'm going to recommend an anime here. So, bit of a shameless plug because I literally just put out a review for this today, but considering I did wait for over a year and a half for it, I'm going to recommend the now movie, hour-and-a-half movie, Black Fox, because I just watched it like a few days ago and had a lot of fun with it. Really enjoyed it. Thought it had really, really great stylish action scenes, really great fluid animation. Check it out. I don't think you'll be bored by it. I would love to see it lead to a series, lead to more movies. I don't care what.
There is a live-action movie coming out based on it. I know that.
Yeah. In fact, I think it's that's already out in Japan, so I don't know if we'll get it here. But yes, you can go watch the anime on Crunchyroll right now. So that's my recommendation.
All right. Well, we have 2 openings, and so I'm going to play dictator on my own podcast, and I'm going to fill those. So first things first, I'm going to recommend a game, and that is Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening. If you don't already have it, it is absolutely fun. It's addictive to the point, like, I could honestly see myself doing multiple playthroughs, like, say, with Metroid Samus Returns, just because it is Zelda. It's classic Zelda, so you can sit back and just play through the game on autopilot and enjoy all of the wonderful colors that are going to be happening. It's Zelda. Where can you go wrong? And then I'm going to actually take a peg from Shay here. I'm going to recommend a YouTuber. And that YouTuber is Shay Tari. If you guys have not checked out her content, I know I plug this content as much as I possibly can because in a lot of cases it actually is a really good help, especially on those Monday mornings. I am Garfield. I hate Mondays. Monday Monkey lives for the weekend. And so at that point, like having the I know I've said this a lot, but her Motivational Monday content, if you guys have not seen it, it's really well thought out. It's approached from an end that isn't necessarily looking to judge, isn't necessarily looking to tell you what to do, but at least give you a direction that you might haven't seen in the blind spot or in the tunnel vision that you have via depression. I've actually gone back and watched a couple of her episodes over and over again just because this is what I'm dealing with this given week. And so at that point, I have at least somebody who can help me kind of step out of my tunnel vision and see something else aside from, you know, all of the myriad of failures or whatever else is bothering me in that given day, week, or month. So I am shamelessly plugging Shatery. Go and see her content. In fact, you actually just barely started up your kind of your own little geek news kind of hybrid. You now talk nerdy news.
I started doing that on Wednesdays. Also, thank you for the plug. I really appreciate that. Really appreciate those words, actually. But yeah, I started.
I take recompense in the form of gift cards. No, I'm kidding. I'm absolutely kidding.
No, I really, really appreciate it. And yeah, I started doing a Wednesday weekly newscast just because I thought it would be fun. And it was, you know, kind of took me back to when I was like in high school and I used to want to be a news reporter, strangely enough. So I was like, why not try it? Because I feel like there's always fun stuff that comes out. Yeah, but
See. As much as I don't even want to I don't want to ruin your parade here, but I just have to say this, and Romney will probably agree with me. You can't do it. You're too positive.
I know.
You haven't been jaded enough yet.
I know.
Romney has that look of like, come on, we've met those people at the paper. We really have.
I know. I haven't gotten there yet, but I try, but I do have to say I do enjoy doing the motivational Mondays, and I started doing them like on a more consistent basis because of you, because I know that you have said that you've enjoyed them, which made me want to put them more on a consistent basis, and I enjoy doing them. I really enjoy them.
All right, and there's a little bit more of extra business that we need to take care of before we wrap up for the night. This is the second time Shay has come on the podcast. Obviously, it's kind of a big divide. I want to say the last time we had you on was August of last year, I think.
I think so.
Yeah, so we've gone over a year from having you, and to be honest, like I said at the end of that, like we wanted to hear what the community thought about bringing Shay on, like they did with Brenton, and I have to admit to you, I don't know if I told you this or not, I'm getting a lot of flack as to why I didn't bring back the anime girl because they liked her. And so much so that for some reason somebody, I don't know if it was on my end or yours, but they were just like, why aren't you bringing, did you guys have a fight or something? Well, for the record, we didn't have a fight. It's just so much crap has happened this year. I haven't talked to anybody. And that's kind of the sad reality here. I just barely got back into contact with people in between like a gap between March and like August. Just because I was dealing with my own stuff and I wasn't really looking to do business for podcasts or YouTube or anything like that. I was looking to work on me. But now that I'm doing a lot of that stuff, I actually need to figure this out. Shay, if we try, so now that the people have spoken, they would like to see you a little bit more often. I'm not twisting your arm or anything like that. You could totally not see me twisting her arm. But if we had a way to be able to do it, would you like to be able to come on and do more Geek News episodes?
Yes.
All right. Yeah, I think we have fun with this. I mean, Romney, I don't want to speak for Romney and Alex, but this has been a fun night. And the last time we did this, it was a fun night. Even if for no other reason, like we totally threw Shay off because tutoring was a thing. That's like the best part of that episode, in my opinion. I was like, really? That's a thing? So at that point, yeah, I think we'll try and make it work, but I am going to say this for the record. it's not that we're intentionally trying to leave Shay out, but here's the bottom line. It's already hard enough to get the three of us together because Alex, Romney, they have 9 to 5s. Well, Romney's kind of in between, but he had a 9 to 5. Shay's kind of pointed out she's got a busy schedule too. I got 2 kids. So really in those cases, we have to make sure that everybody kind of works. And if somebody needs to miss, maybe what we can also do is we can contact Shay and see if she can join us that night and see if she can add her perspective on it. I'm pretty sure you wouldn't have a problem with that, Shay. But the other thing too is that you actually also do a couple of other podcasts as well, so we actually have to kind of work around those too. So what I'm basically saying is we have no problem with bringing her back on. We just need to make sure that we work with proper schedules and make sure that it all works out. But I am also happy to announce that if you guys want to see the next time that Shay does anything on any of my podcasts, you guys need to write this down. Saturday, November 16th. I believe we set it at, is it 7 o'clock your time?
I believe we did say 7.
So that would be 9 o'clock Eastern time. No, that would be 10 o'clock Eastern time. So you guys, Saturday, November 16th at 10 o'clock Eastern time, where myself, Shay, and another panelist are going to be joining together on the YB Geek podcast. You know, the podcast you haven't seen all year. Partially because of the reasons I just barely stated. We're going to be coming back where we're going to be taking on a whole new subject matter as we're going to be delving into unpopular anime opinions. So you guys can look forward to that next month. And I believe we're going to be doing it live. I need to double check with our other panelists, but I think we can still do it live. And then we'll be able to do it live on YouTube. If not, we'll let you know where it is on the RSS feed. But that's the last bit of business that I have. So if people want to be able to get a hold of us, be able to ask us questions about the stuff we talked about tonight, give additional opinions, I'm going to go ahead and give the floor first to Shay Turi. How do people get a hold of you?
You can get a hold of me on Twitter, which is twitter.com/ I believe it's Shay_Turi. I'm also on Instagram, which is also Shay Turi, just one word. And then I'm also on YouTube, which is also Shay Turi, also one word.
All right. And again, go check out her YouTube channel. Go also check out her blog. I know that she's been able to put up a couple of other blog posts there as well, so you've got a lot to look into. Alex the Shadow Blazer, how do people get a hold of you?
I am on YouTube. Shadow Blazer 3000 is my channel, and of course I do anime content, reviews, all that fun stuff. Occasional some game content. And always be blasted about a video. Always know when it goes up. You can follow me on Twitter at AlexJShort.
All right. And Stephen Romney of Studio Ghost Utah, how do people get a hold of you?
I'm going to try to keep it as short as possible since we're over time. You can always find me under my handle, Studio Ghost Utah. I upload to both YouTube and Facebook when I actually have something to upload, which, yes, I am currently working on something. If you want to see a more casual side of me, which includes pictures of cats, food that I make, random Nintendo Switch tidbits, followed by more cats, you can find me on Instagram at RomneyDoesArt. I swear one day that username will be less of a lie. And if you want to interact with me directly, you can also find me on Twitter at Romney Reviews. This is the best way to interact with me directly, to send me stories, to send things you want me to cover specifically. Seriously, Adam has 2 kids, like, give the poor guy a break. That is the way you can reach me. And as for this week's Romney's recommendation, are you someone who has the tendency to buy way too many books and then is just not sure if you're going to actually find the time to read them because you're not sure how long it'll take? Well, there's a website that can actually help make that easier called Reading Length. Reading Length is a website that gives you an approximation of how long it takes to read a particular book. And while Adam was talking about it, I actually plugged in the book he recommended, The Happiness Advantage. And according to this website, if you're reading at 250 words per minute, the average reader would spend 4 hours and 15 minutes reading the book from start to finish. So if you've got, a reading list that's piled up to, 3 bookshelves, like in my case, and need to figure out how to budget your time so you can actually finally read those books, this is the website for you. So once again, I'm recommending the website readinglength.com.
For me, it's like howtobeat.com with
That's
books. Pretty much
exactly.
Because I like how if you guys don't know this website, howlongtobeat.com, that shows you like how long it takes to actually beat a game. That's what it sounds like to me. It's howlongtobeat.com.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is, and it even has a reading test, so you can calculate your exact reading speed, so you can tailor the projected time to finish the book to your own reading speed.
Sweet. And if you guys want to get a hold of me, the best way to be able to do so is on my Twitter and my Instagram under the exact same tagline, @Drak2326. On Twitter, you'll be able to leave your questions with me. I'll get back to you as quickly as I possibly can. And on Instagram, well, you're going to get a bunch of my pictures of my family, of random gaming memes, of other stupid stuff that I can find, random fart jokes maybe. You're going to see a bunch of stuff on my Instagram that is just, me. I promise. It's not just going to be the family pictures, guys. I'll find other stuff to put up, but I blame you if I put up a bunch of fart memes in 1 week because you asked for more stuff. And that's just what I had. That's what I had at the moment. So those are the best ways to be able to get a hold of me. You're already on my YouTube channel, and I recommend that you guys check out the content that we already have provided. In fact, I'm also going to be pushing this really quick. You guys can join me and my wife tomorrow night at 10 o'clock Eastern Time as we live stream a doubleheader of new games. We'll be taking on Yooka-Laylee and the Impossible Lair, as well as Indivisible. If you guys don't know what that game is, it's actually an RPG, an indie RPG that the Game Grumps talked about a while back. So you guys can check that out and then be able to see the live stream where we take it on for realsies. So you guys can check that out. And then I also talked about the podcast that eventually me and Shay are going to be doing. So you guys can look forward to that as well. If you want to be able to get a hold of the podcast or to be able to support the podcast, first of all, for those on YouTube who want to be able to watch live, because we do have a live chat here, and we thank you guys so much for joining us. You can join us every Friday night at 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and we usually are pretty much on time. Either if we're a little late, we'll probably let you know, and you can join us live for the recordings, and then eventually go back over to our RSS feed, which we recommend you support at geekynro.libsyn.com. That's where you get the podcast. That's also where you get the RSS exclusive content, specifically Geek News Movie Night. And for those who still haven't voted yet, you have 2 to 3 more days to vote for our next Geek News Movie Night, which is between Hellboy 2014, Beetlejuice, and Van Helsing. So make your voice known on Twitter and let us know what you want us to watch for the next Geek News Movie Night. And if you want to support on social media, you can do so at Twitter and Facebook under the exact same tagline, GeekyNRO, and you'll be able to get up-to-the-minute information on stuff we're going to be talking about, whether or not we're going to be able to have special guests, whether or not we're going to be able to cover all of the opinions, etc. We're going to put that all there for you, as well as any polls that we have for Geek News Movie Night, etc. And if you want to be able to leave stories with us or leave feedback on the podcast, you can do so at geekyweek@gmail.com. And that's going to go ahead and do it for us this evening. We thank you guys so much for joining us. We especially thank Shay Tari for joining us once again for another awesome evening of discussing geeky stuff, as well as having to deal with random soapboxes. That did happen. And we're very thankful to be able to bring these guys on, and we're very thankful that you guys came out. And that's going to go ahead and do it for us. So we thank you guys so much for showing up. And we will be back. Actually, we will not be back next Friday for more Geek News reviews and opinions, as we will be recording our Geek News Movie Night. But when we come back, we will let you guys know. So for me, for Alex, for Romney, and for Shay, we will see you guys next time.